At the end of 2019, Team Ledger had sold over 1,000 properties. So 2020's here, and we're going to ramp it up a gear and give away this.
Kia ora, good afternoon and welcome along to Newtown Park here in Wellington for the 16th running of the Team Ledger Harcourts Capital Classic 2020. A very important year, of course, because we have the Tokyo Olympics ahead of us. We have got 3 and 3/4 hours of outstanding track and field here in Wellington. The conditions are fine. There is a northerly breeze out there. It may gust up to 40 knots on occasions. It's expected to between 6 and 7 o'clock this evening, but it is a bit of an amphitheatre in here. Certainly where we're sitting now in the main stand looking out, it seems to be relatively still. Here on the ground, a few gusts of wind certainly. We're starting with the field and a very important women's hammer throw coming up now, featuring Julia Radcliffe, also Gwen Berry from the USA and Alexandra Holly. Now Gwen already has qualified automatically for the Tokyo Olympics. 15 centimetres off it at the Porritt Classic was Julia Radcliffe, and Alexandra Holly, of course, was second to Julia in the 2018 Commonwealth Games. Gwen Berry about to throw here. I am joined by...
Absolutely. Last opportunity, kind of a bit of a blowout for a number of our top athletes. Some of them, maybe they might have won a little break, but look, we've put on perfect conditions here in Newtown Park for a last kind of warm-up effort before the big championships next week.
Dave Moorcroft is running Royalty, former world record holder, 5,000 metres, which he held. In fact, he's the last non-African to hold that particular record. 2 times Commonwealth Games gold medalist as well in 78 and 82. Dave, welcome to the broadcast.
Good afternoon. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Conditions here, look, Dave, in Wellington, I can assure you, and Reese will too, this is about as good as it gets.
I remember competing on this track, many years ago, 30 years ago, frighteningly, and it was a bit like this. It was a beautiful sunny day, but it was quite windy. But there's a natural bowl here that protects the athletes a little bit from the wind. Wind isn't ideal by any stretch of the imagination. Pretty much the only 2 events that like the wind are the Javelin and the Discus. Other than that, you're fighting it. But as you said in the introduction, it's not that bad. The emphasis for so many athletes now is chasing Olympic qualifying points or Olympic qualifying standards, and hopefully the conditions will be appropriate. And of course there's the added incentive this year of meeting records, and I've got a feeling quite a number of them are likely to go, including the women's hammer. Indeed,
yes. Team Ledger Harcourts have put up $4,000 to be split amongst those who can break some meet records. Reese Buck actually holds a meet record. Reese, what about 15 years ago, the mile record? Have you instructed them never to run a mile here again because you still hold it and you may forever?
Yeah, I was having a little chat with Tony Rogers last night and asking how much I needed to continue to pay to make sure we didn't have another mile here at the Capital Classic. But it was a windy night back then. If they had a mile here tonight, I think it would have been going down.
I love the mile, and I know it's a 1,500 tonight, and that's right, because I say that obviously the qualifying, the emphasis is on getting qualifying for Olympic distances, but the mile is the one non-Olympic distance that still has a kind of magic and is still an official world record. And New Zealand have been pivotal in the development of the mile, and I know in Wanganui in a few weeks' time, the New Zealand Championship Mile event is going to take place again after a many years break. So, but the hammer's going to be fascinating tonight. I think Julia's done so well to be Commonwealth champion and to throw as far as she does, and she's borderline world class now, which is great.
It is. Reese, the field of 8 being introduced to the crowd here now for the hammer throw. I don't know about you, I'm certainly third in pecking order of athletic ability amongst the broadcasting team tonight. 2 disciplines I didn't try, the hammer throw and the pole vault. I was terrified of both.
Yeah, look, I'm a bit the same. Distance runner through and through for me, but look, certainly over the last few years as an announcer for athletic events, as a fan of the sport, certainly in New Zealand, it's actually been pretty exciting seeing the depth of talent coming through in our field events. And certainly we've got some star international athletes coming down here to compete against Julia Ratcliffe. Certainly they don't come down here to compete unless we've got a star for them to compete against. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how she goes against a couple of athletes from USA and Australia.
One of the highlights of the Gold Coast Games for me was Julia's performance in winning that hammer throw, because it was tense stuff and she proved that she was able to cope at one of the biggest athletics events that we have. Alexandra Holly, who's in this field, is finished second in that. Gwen Berry, though, she has thrown 77 metres, Dave Moorcroft, and that's something exceptional again, well beyond the automatic qualifying for Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah, and you know, she's not absolutely guaranteed that she'll be in Tokyo because of the competition with her nation. But we're referring. I mean, obviously, when I was competing in New Zealand many years ago, middle and long distance was the tradition. But Nick Willis apart, it's changed really in New Zealand. It's great credit to the country that the likes of Tom Walsh and obviously Valerie Adams are now absolute world leaders in field events, and Julia Radcliffe and others are knocking on world class in other field events. So New Zealand now are not just a nation of rugby players or former middle distance runners. They truly have outstanding field event athletes.
Yeah, look, we've just had the women's hammer throw there, just introduced to the stadium here at Newtown Park. And look, just to put in a little bit of perspective, just looking through some stats here for Gwen Berry. Look, something a lot of New Zealanders may not be familiar with, the weight throw is the indoor equivalent of the hammer throw. So in the States, indoors, there's a lot of people running around on a small 200-metre track. The weight throwers, or the hammer throwers, they obviously can't throw the big hammer indoors. They moved to the weight throw. Gwen Berry set the world record for the indoor weight throw back in 2017 of a distance of 25.60 metres. So we've got one of the best indoor weight throwers. It's certainly competing here, and I think it shows the standard that's coming out to compete against Julia.
And I know that for an athlete like Gwen Berry, as I said before, and it's very much a part of the USA system, is that they not only have to have the qualifying mark, but they have to get in the top three at their trials because it's so competitive. So there've been examples in the past. It'll probably change in the future, where Olympic champions or world leaders haven't qualified just because they have a bad day at the trials. So although she's well beyond the Olympic A qualifying standard, her selection for Tokyo isn't absolutely guaranteed. That's why it's so important for her to dominate this event today, and for the likes of Julia and others to get closer and closer to her.
Reece, it really is a genuine highlight, this hammer throw. We're starting off with one of the very best field events today, given the fierce competition amongst just the New Zealanders at the Porritt Classic, adding in, of course, Alexandra Holly and Gwen Berry. It's one of the key events today.
Well, look, we're going to be kicking off with Gwen throwing first, and I think it's one of these things. We were talking a little bit before about the records and the prize pool that's been put up there by one of the major sponsors. And look, the meet record there of 56.19 metres. It sounds very far for some of us distance runners, but certainly Gwen threw 69 metres just a few weeks ago there in Sydney. So look, we're expecting to see this record today in the women's hammer well and truly smashed. You're
absolutely right, Reece. Assuming it isn't a no throw, the current meet record is going to last 6 or 7 seconds. The time it takes for Gwen to do a rotation in the circle, to launch the hammer and for it to land, will probably be the end of the current meet record, which is great. It's a great way to start the event. And we all admitted our lack of knowledge of some of the throws events, but the athleticism of hammer throwers is phenomenal. Quite often the women's hammer throwers aren't necessarily big people, but they're incredibly gymnastic. Some of them have a gymnastics background. Many of them are excellent all-round track and field athletes. Some have even got a ballet background, because the level of coordination and athleticism and the gymnastic ability, plus strength, plus coordination, for the hammer is a really pleasure to watch, and we'll watch Gwyn now.
Well,
Yeah,
we've just had the order handed to us here, Dave. So Reece, we've got Elizabeth Hewitt, local up the road from Mana.
Yeah, actually, I was just noticing as as she gets underway with her first throw here this evening. Yeah, one of my local clubs. I did some coaching there a few years ago when I lived in the area, and now live just down the road. Mana kids competing against my kids these days in the children's athletics. So yeah, really good to see a local Mana athlete coming down here and getting to throw against some of the bigwigs in world hammer throwing.
We'll have Deani Shepherd-Oates up next from Tidy. Then we have Julia Ratcliffe, Lauren Bruce after that, who does hold the meet record, and she's now throwing 11 and 12 metres further than her meet record from 2016. Gwen Berry's going to throw fifth from the United States that we have been talking about, from Lower Hutt, Montaya, Wharinga. Then Alexandra Holly, second in the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games behind Julia, will throw seventh, and Nicole Bradley, who's throwing extremely well at the moment, 5 times national champion, will be last of the 8. Second up here, we've got Deani Shepherd-Oates, number 247, stepping in, and then we'll get Julia to step forward third to see what she can do, coming within 15 centimetres of that automatic Olympic Games qualification at the Porritt Classic on her home turf. Deani getting it out there beyond the 40 metre mark, around 45 metres. And that's just served Dave as a taster for Julia, who will step in. And the good thing about Julia too at the Porritt Classics, a really good series and sequence of throws as well that she produced there.
Yeah, she's not only throws a long way, but she's a consistent thrower, and she's got a long career in athletics. I was talking to her dad earlier, and he said she started off as a hurdler, but also had real strength, real speed, and gymnastic ability. And the transition she's made to hammer has been outstanding, and obviously with that Commonwealth gold medal was wonderful.
40 and 88 was that throw for Deani Shepherd-Oates there from Tyree. And Julia Ratcliffe from the Hamilton Hawks about to step in and post her first throw at the Potts Classic. At Hastings at the end of January, she set a record there, which of course she then broke again at the Porritt Classic at Hamilton, setting a New Zealand all-comers resident and national record.
It's probably also worth noting, and this is as an ignorant middle distance runner, but the hammer cage has been transformed over the years. The attention to detail and safety is crucial, because if these hammer throwers get it slightly wrong, the angle of release or the timing of the release, it very often goes off to either hooked or sliced. It goes off to the left or the right, and that clearly could be a major disaster if it gets beyond the cage. So the attention to detail and the design of the cages have safety as the paramount importance.
And they have been just making an adjustment to that cage, which means that Julia's just had to wait a little bit longer for her first throw, and we saw her there focusing Reece in an important first throw for her to get a really good feel today.
Yeah, and look, I was just talking to her last night at the athletes dinner, and look, the topic of some prize money came up for these records. Look, she knows this field's looking pretty good today. She was wondering how much prize money may go to the second and third place if they're all over the records. So
it seems to have gone extreme left there and probably out of bounds. So not an ideal start for Julia there.
So there's a sector, and it's just, we can't quite see it, but it looks like it's slightly to the left of the outside of the sector. So it has to land within that sector to count. So not only is she not allowed to come out of the front of the circle, but the hammer itself must land within the defined sector, as defined by the white lines on the grass.
So not an ideal start for Julia, but she get another opportunity soon as Lauren Bruce from South Canterbury steps forward. Lauren, of course, with that meet record. That is going to be shattered tonight, but that was in 2016, and she threw 67.87 at the Potts Classic for second, and second at the Porritt too in a 67.44. Lauren Bruce's first throw, she's got that nicely. And providing it, landed within the sector, this time extreme right, Dave. She will have shattered her own record right there and then.
It's difficult for us to see whether it's still within the sector, but it's going to be marginal. There is a judge at the cage who waved the white flag, and that judge determines whether the athlete's feet, whether it was a safe throw, whether it was a valid throw. Because if their feet go beyond the front line, then it's irrespective of where it lands, it doesn't count. But it looks like this one's being measured, and if it is, I'm pretty sure it's going to break the meeting record.
Indeed, they seem to be adjusting that cage again too, so perhaps the thrower's just not entirely happy with the setup of the cage. At the early stages, we saw Julia go extreme left, and we've seen Lauren go extreme right here. Looks like 62 metres coming up there, which certainly well down on what she has been throwing the last few weeks, Lauren Bruce, but nonetheless, it is for now a meet record.
And with the throwers, and again, apologies to all throwers that are listening, but you have left-handed throwers, right-handed throwers, so the cage moves depending on whether you're left-handed or right-handed, and the wind wouldn't affect the hammer, but if there was a strong wind, it could affect the hammer thrower's rotation across the circle. But they were both good throws, albeit that Julia's was slightly outside the sector, but she'll rectify that. But as you said, 63, 61, a new meeting record. So as of now, Lauren owns $4,000. Having said that, as the meeting goes on.
It's certainly a brilliant way to look at it. I remember racing in Europe, and I think I won 300 or 400 euros for one of my races, and I started to do the calculations and figured out for 1,500 metres, if I extrapolated that out over the hour, I was earning pretty good hourly wage, but I forgot to calculate in the hundreds of hours that I'd spent training just to earn that 300 euros. So
here's Gwen Berry of the United States with the first throw.
And we'll have another meeting record. That was lovely, wasn't it? The really controlled, really fast across the circle. The hammer went pretty much dead straight. It had everything that you would expect from a world-class hammer thrower, and she'll build on that distance. That was a safe throw, enough to potentially, as I said, become a yet another meeting record. But she'll build on that, and I think get beyond 70 metres, hopefully comfortably today.
2017 US national champion, and Dave, I guess it's important to get athletes like Gwen down here, and it probably happens or occurs because we have someone like Julia in this event.
Yeah, and there's a danger that I'll get bogged down in all our yesterdays here, but I know that when I was a kid, coming here in the late 1970s, early 80s, it was because of John Walker and Rod Dixon and Dick Quacks and many others. And it was partly to do with the history of track and field in New Zealand, but a lot of it about learning, about mixing it with them. And equally, really good athletes would be brought to Britain so we could learn from them. And so for Julia and others to have Gwen here, she'll learn a huge amount, obviously have the ambition of trying to beat her eventually, but she'll be watching her technique and learning a huge amount from her.
So 69 and 43 for Gwen Berry for her opening throw. Now we have Montoya Wharinga from Lower Hutt, my adopted club.
Yeah, and look, what we've seen over the last couple of years with a coach in Wellington, Shaka Solar. He set up the Solar Academy in Lower Hutt, and he's doing some wonderful things out there with the throw community in the Lower Hutt. So it's not surprising to see a Lower Hutt competitor out here, but yeah, really, really good to see. Once again, another example of you get a community together focusing on a certain group of events, and look, you start to have some success. We've seen it with pole vaulters in Auckland, the throwers down around Dale Stevenson and Tom Walsh down in Christchurch, and obviously we've seen it with Nick and the crew that he's been able to mass around him over the last few years for training camps and so on. It's been great. It
shows the value, not the value, how imperative it is to have coaches who can build critical mass, and athletes follow coaches and excellence follows coaches, and the hammer, probably particularly in Europe and in the UK, is that individual coaches have developed squads who've produced fabulous throwers, and it's happening again in New Zealand. They, honey around a pot, the coach is the magnet and the athletes are produced.
Australian Alexandra Holly now, Gold Coast silver medalist behind Julia Ratcliffe. First throw.
So that was a really good example of why you need such a strong cage. This is, I think we're going to see it in slow motion or see the throw again. Just get the release slightly wrong, either too early, too late, pull it too much. And 30 years ago, that could have been disappearing towards the main stand. It's such a potentially dangerous event when it goes wrong, and that's why we're so grateful that we've got such high quality cages nowadays.
And Nicole Bradley with her first throw, the final of the first round with the 8, and a very good throw from Nicole.
That was a great throw, and it's so fast across the circle. You know, again, I'm sure hammer throwers or the lovers of throws watching this today will have been really impressed by the speed and control across the circle. And her release was great, and you know, her distance good. I don't think she's going to be worrying Gwen and Julie today, but that was a terrific throw.
She's a 5 times national champion, and she ran through 66.72 in the Potts Classic at the end of last month. Her best is 67.11, and she's really opened up with a good throw there in a first round where a couple of the leading fancies haven't quite got things right.
Yeah, and while we're just waiting for that measurement to come through, I think we were talking before about Lauren Bruce, and obviously defending record holder here in the hammer throw. Look, I think it's a reflection on the quality of the meet that Tony Rogers and his team has put together over the last few years. I think we were talking last night at the Athletes Dinner, 16 years I think the Capital Classic's been running now. And the great thing is we've got a number of record holders coming back, and hopefully we might see some records set by them again. So we've got Brandon Stark in the men's high jump. He set the record here back in 2011 when he was a junior at 2:14. He's back here tonight, jumping significantly better. He's one of the world-class high jumpers. Certainly Nick Willis is here. He won't be taking on the 5,000 metre record he's got, but certainly looking to try and set that 800 metre record. Joseph Miller here competing, another record holder. Zoe Hobbs setting 2 records here last year. Angie Petty is the 1,500 metre record holder. So seeing these athletes come back year after year to compete at the Capital Classic, hopefully set some more records this year. Great to see.
It is good, and you know, he said Stark, I think his record at the high jump something like 2:14. He's now done 2:36, and 2:36 is, if you do 2:36 at a major games, Olympics or Worlds, you're knocking on a medal, and you know, certainly 2:40, and you really are in the medal zone. And I think the conditions are okay today. I hope that he jumps well, but also jumps high, and that we can see, you know, what a world-class athlete he is. And
the amazing thing about that high jump, Brandon, of course, from Australia, so is Joel Baden, who's done 2:30 and 2:28, Nick Bojic as well, so that's at 6:30, another of our highlights on the field event card here.
Oh, look, I think we might be seeing this Capital Classic turn into a field eventers paradise. Certainly, you're just talking there about the men's high jump, and I'm sitting here looking at the field for the women's high jump with some of our local stars, Imogen Skelton and Keely O'Hagan, who have jumped pretty well over the last couple of years. Eleanor Patterson from Australia. Nicola Mcdermott, I was speaking to her last night. She wants to try and jump 2 metres here tonight. She's got a personal best of 1.96 m. And Josephine Reeves, Wellington Emerging Sports Person of the Year in 2019, jumping exceptional for a New Zealand female jumper. So, look, I'm actually looking forward probably mostly to see this women's high jump.
And we can see them warming up at the side of the hammer, and 196 is borderline world class. 2 metres for the women is world class, and you know, they're knocking on that height. And you know, hopefully, I think the tradition here is the wind does die a little bit as the evening goes on, and the women's high jump will be starting soon. And you know, for those people watching that maybe don't know a huge amount about track and field, you don't really get an idea of the height of the high jump unless you're standing down there, how incredibly high, ridiculously high, impossibly high it is. But if you look at when the event starts at the guys putting on the bar, you'll realise that people who are themselves in excess of 6 foot are dwarfed by the height that these jumpers achieve. And that's again as another distance runner in awe of these events.
Sorry, Dave. Yes, we just had a slight delay again here in the hammer throw. Well, there was an adjustment made there in the cage. Now, Diane Shepherd-Oates from Tairi having her second throw. Just recapping on that first round, Nicole Bradley's first throw was 64 and 61, putting her second behind Gwen Berry of the United States, 69 and 43. Lauren Bruce of South Canterbury at 63 63-61. Julia Ratcliffe about to step up and hopefully just get that release right for her second throw here.
If this was at an Olympic Games, you have to get the qualifying for the final in your first 3 throws. It's a lot of pressure. And if an athlete does a foul throw on the first throw, there's an element of panic that begins to spread in, certainly if they don't achieve it in the second throw. So in Julia's mind, she'll probably want a safe long throw rather than a high-risk attempt at this stage. So she's probably looking to control the distance, to control her rotation, control the release, and make sure that she gets a long throw in, but mainly a safe throw in.
Such a fine line for these athletes, and like the first round here, Julia just having to wait at the side of the cage while she waits the all clear for her second throw, and like Dave says, probably looking for a slightly cautious throw second up to get on the board.
And actually when the nerves are, and Julia would be well used to this, I mean, and this isn't the Commonwealth final or the Olympic Games where the nerves would be significantly more, but you don't really like standing waiting for them. You can just see there's an element of frustration as she walks away. You just want to get on with it. She's now walked completely away from the circle. I'm not quite sure why, whether there's still a safety issue.
She had a brief word with an official there as she walked off, and she's gone and placed her jacket on here, Julia. So
what I would say is the chief judge's responsibility is safety. The chief judge has got to be absolutely certain that neither the athlete or any of the athletes around the competition or anybody else is at risk. So we weren't too sure why Julia walked away. Kind of assumed initially that there was still a safety issue. In fact, it looks like maybe they're doing a remeasurement.
Yes, I'm just looking over at the cage now, and
there's some activity out in the middle of the field, it's almost as if they're doing a remeasuring a throw.
And Elizabeth Hewitt, I notice, has gone back to just outside the cage as if she's going to throw next. She was the first thrower who had 2 throws, so there may have been an issue with those 2 particular throws. Perhaps they're going back to the top.
No, they're getting out they're measuring it again. In the field events, an athlete has a certain allocated amount of time to do their attempt, and if they don't do it within that time, then it could be a foul attempt, and that often happens in the pole vault when they're waiting for the wind to be perfect. That hasn't happened with Julia. She was ready to throw, so it wasn't as if she was timed out. We're not entirely sure what the reason was, but she when she walked away, she didn't look entirely happy. So again, we'll probably have to try and work out or get it confirmed why she didn't take her second throw, which is a really important throw because the first throw was a foul throw.
So the hammer throw starting at 4 o'clock, our sole field event, but we're about to be joined soon by others with the men's long jump getting underway. We threw that field up there for you. The men's long jump at 4:30 and also at 4:30, the women's pole vault. Now we do have Elizabeth Hewitt going back into the circle, which would always make me think here that they've gone back to the start of the second round.
I think you're right, Mark.
Sorry, Dave, I was just about to say, as extraordinary as that is.
It is. Again, you know, we're grabbing at straws slightly, but it looked like that she's been given her second throw again, because potentially I think something went wrong with the measurement of her second throw. So she probably said to the judge, I think you got that wrong. The judge said, yeah, I think you're right. And she was allowed to have her second throw again.
It's come up at 48.62, that second throw, so 48.62 for Elizabeth Hewitt. And I see Julia is now stepping forward again, so clearly the second throw for Deani Shepherd-Oates has been deemed official. And now Julia will step up for her second, but it hasn't been the ideal start. So Julia Radcliffe into the circle now for her second throw after a no throw, which went extreme left of the sector. She's been in fine form these last few weeks, and hopefully she can bring that to Wellington. Certainly looking good. It's been out towards the 70-metre mark there, Dave.
That was a great throw. It was a lot better. Got the white flag from the judge at the circle. She seems to be reasonably happy with it. Maybe fell away a little bit on release, but she fell backwards rather than forward, so there was no danger of it being a foul throw. That was a really good throw. She's approaching the 70-metre there, and I think she'll be certainly 68 plus, which will be terrific.
Yeah, and certainly in terms of getting onto the board safely, as you said, in terms of recording a distance, that's the ideal throw for her. She can attack the competition a little more now. Just had the first of the long jump competition get underway with Lewis Arthur from North Harbour Bays jumping there. He finished third last Sunday at the Sir Graham Douglas. 68 metres and 13 for Julia Radcliffe in round number 2. Puts her into second spot behind Gwyn Berry. Lauren Bruce about to step up here, having thrown 63 and 61 in the first round.
Yeah, you were just mentioning the men's long jump. I think the athlete to watch there today, the Japanese athlete Natsuki Yamakawa, jumped a distance of 8 metres and 6 centimetres back in 2017. So he's not quite on that form at the moment, but 7 metres 64 at Waitakere in the Sir Graham Douglas meet just on Sunday. So certainly not far off it. Will be good to see how he goes today, and yet another record likely to go. Likely to go,
yeah. The long jump will be with a relatively strong wind behind them. Whether it's a legal wind or not, I'm not too sure. It has to be below 2 metres per second. But Yamakawa, as an 8-metre jumper, again, is approaching world class. You need to do at least 8 metres in the long jump. 8.5 metres is takes you into the medal zone, 860. But for Yamakawa particularly, this is a big year with the Olympic Games in mind.
And he was second on Sunday to Jeremy Andrews from Australia, who is not competing tonight. So Natsuki Yamakawa, the one to watch there in the men's long jump. Lauren Bruce stepping forward now to improve on her 63-61 first round throw. Good throw, good release. Seems to be good speed across the circle, and Lauren settled into her work very quickly.
I think so. I think it looks like a really tidy technique. It looks like a really controlled technique. Two sort of really strong throws, and I think she's got more to come. Maybe not tonight, but in the future. She looks like, certainly technically, she's right up there in terms of the way in which she can kind of handle the circle and the speed across the circle and the accuracy of her release.
Gwyn Berry is preparing for her second round throw. She's the leader after the first round, 69 and 43, and clearly the one to beat too coming into this with the background that she does have. US national champion from 3 years ago, about to step into the cage for the second time, and see Lauren's distance appear, I think 65.73 if I saw that quickly enough, so an improvement of over 2 metres. A few of our pages starting to rustle here, just might be indicating that the wind just springing up a little with just the odd gust. Here's Gwyn Berry with her second throw. And that's a magnificent release. Appears to have gone beyond the 70-metre mark.
Beyond the 70-metre mark, she is a world-class thrower. Again, saw great control. And what she appears to have is really controlled acceleration. So at the back of the circle, the first rotation is relatively slow, but then she accelerates towards the release. And obviously, the greater the acceleration, the harder it is to control the release. So rather than it being 3 or 4 equal rotations in terms of speed, she actually gathers speed So at the point of release, not only is she accurate, but she's at her fastest as well. And if you add in then the strength, that's why she throws over 70 metres.
And over at the men's long jump, Natsuki Yamakawa having his first jump there. We'll see if we can get a distance on that, and also awaiting the distance for Gwen, but we should have had our first throw in excess of 70 metres here on the women's hammer. It is 70 metres and some centimetres, which we'll find in a few minutes. Or seconds, hopefully.
Next of all will be Elizabeth Burrell, all the way from Sydney, Australia. She has a personal best of 3 metres and 95.
70 metres and 15 centimetres for Gwen Berry, the leader in the women's hammer throw. Local athlete, up the road, Lower Hutt, Montoya Wharinga in for her second throw, 48 and 18, round one. And another decent throw there as the pole vaulters get introduced to us. The women's pole vault to start, and a field of four. Olivia McTaggart will be the third into action from Christchurch. Eliza McMeekings from the Papanui Tok H club down there. Elizabeth Barrell from Australia. Olivia McTaggart, who had a disappointing meet last Sunday in Auckland, but good prior to that, of course. And she's from North Harbour Bays, and Imogen Iris from Takapuna is in pretty good form, setting a personal best at the Canberra meeting recently, with 4 metres 30 finishing third over there, and then a 4 metre 20 second to Olivia McTaggart at the Potts Classic back in Hastings at the end of last month. Dave Moorcroft with some of these local athletes, certainly a real thrill for them, and the opportunity to potentially really test themselves against athletes that they don't normally get to extend themselves against.
It is so important. A lot of time athletes tend to compete against known quantities in local club competition, and it's just wonderful for them to be testing themselves and learning from world-class athletes. It really is important that the best in the world, or people who are knocking on the door of the best in the world from around the world, are able to come to New Zealand and help develop young New Zealand talent. But also a lot of these athletes use the opportunity to get away from the trials and tribulations of a Northern Hemisphere winter and get some training in. So it works well both ways.
Montoya Wharinga through 49.48 to improve the second throw, but Alexandra Holly in a spot of bother with another no throw there. She's not quite getting it right. Now Nicole Bradley, 64.61 in round one. Here's round two.
Again, I think she'd be pretty happy with that. Got a white flag, really controlled. We'll find out the distance. None of them are really challenging Gwen Berry at the moment, who looks sort of imperious today. But a huge amount of learning going on, and it'll be in 10 years' time we'll see some of these athletes who are in their infancy today coming through and hopefully getting better by every year.
Second round long jump, no jump there for Lewis Arthur, leading off the second row, North Harbour Bays. Women's pole vault about to get underway as well. The field of four down there. Eyes on Olivia McTaggart. She didn't have the best of meetings there in Auckland, Reece, at the weekend, but we know the ability that she has, and one of the rising stars of pole vaulting, which now has become something in New Zealand that we probably wouldn't have imagined 10 years ago.
Oh, absolutely, and certainly with the absence of Eliza here tonight, certainly Livia will be one of the stars we'll be keeping an eye on and seeing how high she jumps.
Personal best for her of 4 metres and 46, 2019 New Zealand champion. And,
are we overdoing the talk about the records? I think the women's pole vault might be another record opportunity here.
I think that $4,000 from Team Leisure Harcourts could get well and truly split, Reece.
Yeah, and I think maybe as well, certainly the Wellington weather sometimes does play into kind of how well the athletes are performing, but tonight for most of these events it's looking as though we're having pretty ideal conditions for most of the events out there.
It's a lovely evening, and it's a great venue, and the venue itself has a lot of history, and I think it's great that the sponsors have put up $4,000, albeit that it's shared. This is the for some of these people, the thought of becoming multimillionaire professional athletes, it couldn't be further from their mind. It's still rooted in amateur sport. It's rooted in communities. It's rooted in clubs. It's rooted in volunteer coaches who give of their time freely, and an incredible resource. So for any of these athletes, you know, even for someone like Julia Radcliffe, who's a Commonwealth champion, just to be competing internationally in this country and maybe sharing a little bit of the prize money is great.
And she's gone well left with her third throw there again, very similar to her first throw there.
It is. I mean, you know, I don't know enough about Julia's history, but she looks like she's got a little bit of a problem of kind of hooking it as you would in golf. She's got a safe throw in. Soon I think she'll be going flat out, risking it a little bit and trying to edge closer to the 70-metre qualifying, 70-metre mark. To get an A qualifying for the Olympic Games, Julia would have to throw 72 metres 50, which, you know, at the moment is a little bit beyond her, but in terms of what she's achieved. But I don't think it's beyond her in terms of potential.
Yeah, she was only 15 centimetres off it there in Hamilton, and whether they can replicate that form tonight, it would seem that all of those who are involved in that dramatic competition there in Hamilton are all just down on that at the moment. Here is Nicole Bradley to finish.
So again, we saw the importance of the safety net. Released incorrectly at the wrong time, at speed, but the net catched it safely. And you know, Julia, she's thrown 71.39, so if she did throw that today, although Gwen Berry's ahead and she's coming into the circle now, she hasn't yet gone well beyond 70 metres. So if Julia was capable of throwing 71, 72 metres tonight, then she could take Gwen Berry's scalp. But having said that, I think there's more in the tank from Gwen.
Quick apology too, that was Lauren Bruce there, of course, prior. With that no throw, and Gwen Berry about to launch her third. Lewis Arthur here on the long jump.
The Ledgers have been involved with this meet for a number of years. Talking to Tony, the meet director, last night, over $40,000 invested into this meet from Team Ledgers, and I think it goes along for them. It's going to be wonderful to see their son, Josh Ledger, running tonight in the 800. Josh is
a sport that they love, and it's wonderful that their son's involved in that. And you might have seen Gwen Berry lose control of the hammer in her first part of her attempt, but she managed to maintain control of the hammer, was allowed to essentially have another attempt, but she'd kind of lost her control really, and although it went close to 70 metres, it wasn't a great attempt. Often hammer throwers lose control of the hammer during the rotations, and that's the end of their attempt. But if they can still manage to hang on to it and not go outside the circle, they do get the opportunity to complete the throw, but usually by then they've kind of lost their concentration.
And Gwen Berry stepped out the front there, as did Montoya Wharinga after her. And next up, we will have Alexandra Holly from Australia, and this is a key throw for her. She's on the board, Dave, which will certainly encourage her, and she's got a fair throw out anyway, which was probably all she was concentrating on there.
Yeah, it won't approach the 68 metres that she's well capable of, but as you said, at least she's on the board, she has a throw, and she'll begin to be a little bit more ambitious for the final throws, just to really sort of try and get not just on the board, but close to her best performance.
60 metres 08 there for Alexandra Holly, as we had another run through the pit there in the long jump. Nicole Bradley, North Harbour Bays, warming up for her third attempt. She got out to 64 and 61 in round one, and has been in good throwing form, up around 66, 67 metres in recent times at the Potts Classic, and she's a 5 times New Zealand champion, looking to pull something out here as well. And we may not have the dramatic finish, Reece, that we got in Hamilton at this stage, but still halfway through.
Yeah, and obviously the focus at the moment there out there on the hammer throw. Certainly women's shot put in New Zealand has been going well. the men's shot put coming through. Something we certainly haven't mentioned this evening, the women's javelin throw coming up a little bit later. Tori Peters from Hamilton City Hawks, certainly going very well for New Zealand. Holly Robertson expecting to throw well, and talking to Ashley Pryke from Canada last night, certainly she's expecting to throw well as well in the javelin. So look, every event, certainly as we're looking through the field events right now, every one of these field events, we've got some good New Zealanders up to compete against some quality international competition. Certainly can't beat sitting here at the Newtown Park with some great quality athletics to watch.
It is great, and again, as an ignorant distance runner, one thing I am aware of is that two events that potentially can benefit from a wind are the javelin and the discus for different reasons. And depending on which way they throw the javelin today, the aerodynamic nature of the javelin means that the wind can actually get underneath the javelin and maintain its flight slightly longer. For the discus, depending on the angle of whether the wind is quartering or not, it can also assist discus throwers. So it might work quite well to the advantage of the javelin throwers today. For the sprinters and for those athletes running more than 400 meters, either the wind, if the wind is too strong, it can be too strong for a record if it's over 2 meters per second, or it can be too strong a headwind for a fast performance or a long performance.
Mike and Tanya Ledger wandering down in front of us. The key sponsors with Team Ledger Harcourts as we get working into the pole vault competition. Field of 4. And Eliza Meekings from Papanui Tokach in Christchurch. And the women's high jump underway as well. So we've got 4 field events going at once, Dave. So we have to start splitting the eyes, I think.
So the athletes that are attempting 168 are not the world-class athletes at the moment. Those athletes that are capable of 190, 195 and beyond would delay entering the competition as long as possible. You tend to get the athletes at 168 whose probably personal bests are in the 170s, maybe 180.
Yeah, look, we just saw a clip just before of Portia Bing. She's starting to warm up. We're about 10 minutes away from the first of the track events kicking off with the women's 400-metre hurdles. But look, I was just looking at some of the notes that I've written down in regards to Portia Bing overnight. And look, I've almost used up half a page just with the stats. So certainly looking forward to seeing how Portia goes. National record holder there in the women's 400-metre hurdles. So we're about 10 minutes away from that first of the track events.
Just the two in Portia's race, so it's really probably a mental battle for her, and I think she's well capable of that, and she ran extremely well in windy conditions at Auckland on Sunday.
Yeah, and for those people enjoying the coverage at home, just to kind of update you on that program for those track events. So our first track event coming up will kick off at 5 p.m. So that's the Athletics New Zealand Women's 400-metre hurdles. The next track event there will be the Ace Sports Women's 800 at 5:20, and then followed by the men's graded divisions of the 800. And just so there's no confusion, the elite men's 800, if people are wanting to watch Nick Willis ripping up the track here at Newtown Park, it's going to kick off at 7:30, our last of the individual track events.
Into the 4th round for Diani Shepherd-Oates, visiting athlete from Tairi, in the women's hammer throw.
And again, that went into the side netting, and it all the way through the throw, it looked like it was going to end up in the side netting. The control wasn't quite there. And I think she was sort of almost playing catch-up for the whole of the attempted throw that at the end went wrong. And it's back to the long jump.
Natsuki Yamakawa of Japan, the man we've got our eyes on tonight after he finished second in Auckland on Sunday. And as we mentioned earlier, he has exceeded 8 metres. He finished second to an Australian at the weekend. Jeremy Andrews, who is not here tonight. Matthew Wyatt's here though, with a 767 best. He won at the Porrick Classic with a 722 and a 3 times national champion, but it is Natsuki Yamakawa on the runway. Can be lonely in the back straight, Dave Moorcroft, but he's trying to get the people there on the hill to get him in the mood.
Absolutely. We'll watch him jump and then I'll make reference to the crowd because it'll be slightly different in Tokyo at the Olympic Games. He's got decent speed on the runway. I don't think it's a huge distance because you can usually tell from the body language of the jumpers that he accelerates in, hits the board hard. A good technique, but there was nothing from his body language at the end of it that indicated that it was that he was going to be overly excited by the distance. But Yamakawa, if he does qualify for the Olympic Games, competing in Tokyo, he'll have more than a small crowd doing those rhythmic claps to support him. It'll be an amazing atmosphere for him. But he'll have to do a lot further than that, A, to qualify for the Games, and B, to do well at the Games.
Alexandra Holly there with her 4th attempt from Australia. Things haven't quite worked for her today as she probably hoped they would. Just looking at the long jump, 7 metres 68 was that latest jump from Natsuki Yamakawa.
That rhythmic clapping, from memory it was a guy called Willie Banks, triple jumper, who initially got crowds clapping in that way, that rhythmic clapping, that created an atmosphere of itself around the long jump pit that can often be quite isolated and quite quiet and quite a conservative approach. But now that rhythmic clapping, the jumpers tend to do it for each other, and so it kind of creates an atmosphere within an atmosphere, and it's a really important part of helping jumpers jump further, or at least that's what they say, and I think they're probably right.
Previous long jump there was local Jamie Kearns. I see jump 12.24 in the triple jump on Sunday here, and on his local track today, Lewis Arthur, first jumper of the round. North Harbour Bays next up in the pit. Got some reasonable height.
Got a lot of height then, that was good. Whether that transitions into a jump that's closer to 8 metres. I think you can always tell a huge amount from how a jumper reacts after they get into the pit. You know, usually we can have a replay that shows the 689. That shows their accuracy on the board. But if they're too far short of the board, then they don't get any benefit. They lose it. They obviously lose distance. And obviously, if they go over the board, it's a no jump.
Lewis was the best of the Kiwis at the weekend with 7.18, finishing 3rd at the Sir Graham Douglas meet at Waitakere.
Look, we're just looking at the stats coming through on the Sky Sport Next YouTube page. We've got over 200 people currently watching the live stream, so either big thanks to their bosses for letting them watch at work, or congratulations for getting off early on a Friday afternoon to get home and kind of indulge in some live athletics, which look, for New Zealanders it's a little bit rare. We haven't had an amazing opportunity like this season. The relationship that Athletics New Zealand's been able to build with Sky Sport, the Sky Sport Next program, bringing some of the more minority sports, bringing that live coverage to the fans. So really, really good to see, and great to see there's a bunch of you out there watching and enjoying the coverage. One of
the benefits of streaming is that you can spend a good amount of time covering an event like a Hammer. You know, very often on sort of in Europe on mainstream television, events like the Hammer get marginalised, and you get it packaged into the best three throws tucked in at the end of a programme. Whereas today, albeit that we've got one camera and the director's doing a brilliant job, we're able to cover more events in more detail and spend more time. And you know, I assume of the few hundred people that are watching, a lot of those people will be athletics aficionados, people who love their athletics, and will be drawing their own conclusions from the techniques that we see and the potential that we see, and hope, but mainly being able to enjoy top-class athletics in detail, which isn't often the case certainly in Europe when the main TV channels try to cram too much into too short a period of time. But this is Julia back in the hammer now. This is a big throw for her. I think she's got to get over 70 metres now.
Yamakawa there over in the long jump, and here is Julia, as Dave said, with her latest throw.
And she's lost that, and I think it's a no throw. Is she? So I haven't got the red flag yet. So the judge has judged that she's managed to keep control of the hammer, but psychologically it's hard, I think, for her to get her mind around. So this will be a big challenge for her. I hope she can pull it off. That was okay, but nothing special. Now, again, apologies for, she's walked out the front. Apologies for people who know more than I do, but if it appeared that she rushed that, in effect, second attempt, it largely would be because she was running out of time, that she'd have an allocated amount of time to do it. So having messed up the first part of it, she then had to get that second attempt in quickly. And you know, we saw it with Gwyn Berry when she lost control in her throw. And Gwyn Berry's going into the circle now. Is that very rarely do they lose control of their first attempt and then regain control and throw a long way, because of the technical nature and the level of concentration needed in the hammer.
So no throw for Julia Ratcliffe. Just prior to her, Lauren Bruce posted 65.06, just a fraction down on her best tonight of 65.73, and Gwyn Berry going forward now. And over at the pole vault, we saw Australian Elizabeth Barrell awaiting her chance to jump and just waiting for the right wind conditions for her. But here is the leader of the women's hammer throw from the USA, Gwyn Berry.
If you watch the way she accelerates into release, it starts off as a long, slow initial rotation, but then as she gets across the circle, she gathers pace, so her acceleration is at the greatest at release there. Not a huge distance by her standards, but technically the other, particularly New Zealand women watching that, will be learning a great deal.
7.46 across the long jump, just posted there with Yamagawa's last jump, I think, so he's a fraction down on what he was doing on Sunday. Still awaiting the right conditions for her vault. Elizabeth Barrell from Australia, 22-year-old. Elizabeth Barrell, a best of 3 metres 95. Gwyn Berry's latest distance, 67 and 24, as we move into the next round there.
Very often hammer throw competitions, particularly at major games, come alive in the last few throws, just because one thrower goes bonkers and throws a long way, and it sparks a kind of degree of adrenaline, and the whole event comes to life. And as I say, in the last round, in so many championships in recent years, the event has been won, or the bronze, silver medals have been changed. What it hasn't quite yet had is it really come alive.
It certainly came alive in the final round of the Gold Coast. Now our first track event is underway here, Reece, and it's Porsche being effectively running against the clock.
Yeah, look, another opportunity. We see 2 athletes here. the local athlete there in the Mana Athletics strip, Samantha Clark, getting to go up against probably one of her idols, Portia Bing. But Portia running absolutely brilliantly as she heads around the top bend, just about to hit the 300-metre mark in this 400-metre hurdles.
Yeah, and apologies to Portia that talking over her when she began that race. But, you know, she's such an established 400-metre hurdler who gets that all-important there. She got it slightly wrong. But coming through to the finish in a good time, 56-ish seconds, up until the final hurdle.
Yeah,
Steps between each barrier were pretty much spot on. She hit a mark really, really well. She'll have in her mind an established stride pattern, and she hit it really, really well, with the exception of the final hurdle. But that was a really competent performance. She looks so strong, really accomplished, and technically a very difficult event, the 4 hurdles, because if you get your stride pattern wrong, you arrive too early or too late at the hurdle, it can go horribly wrong.
Yeah, look, and we saw the interview with her after her run in Auckland, and she was talking about the changes that she's made since her disqualification at the World Championships last year. And look, the difficulty for an athlete at that level, the World Championship level, having to completely change what she's doing out there, getting over the hurdles, to make sure that next time she lines up for New Zealand, she's going to do it better and she's going to go faster. But 56.81 in Auckland earlier in the week, she's certainly in good form. So we'll wait to see what that official time is. It looked
probably around about the same time, maybe slightly faster. And I think you're right, Reece. And, also the importance, when you get to a World Championships and Olympic Games, in these events, she's competing pretty much on her own and she dominates. When you go to a major championships and you're surrounded by people who can run as fast, if not faster than you, it changes your whole mindset and it can put you off. But she's adapted really, really well. And, there are 10 things that can go wrong in the 4 hurdles. It's one of the most technically complicated events because not only are you getting incredibly tired as the race develops, but technically you've got to be so accomplished over each hurdle. And not just be a good hurdler, but be a fast 400-metre runner. And also to be able to hurdle off and off either leg, depending on which one you arrive at the hurdle on.
Down at the shot put circle, the field for the men's shot put has been introduced to the crowd. No Tom Walsh here tonight, but his training partner Ryan Ballantine's making significant strides of late, and he has been in very good form of late, Ryan, and improving his personal best with pretty much every meeting. In Auckland, 1971, a new personal best when he was second to Tom. He was 1964 at the Porritt Classic. And he chased home Tom, of course, too, at the Potts Classic as well. So, Ryan, a chance to get close to 20 metres.
Yeah, and 20 metres is the kind of benchmark for world class, really. Tom's been in excess of 22 metres, and then you're talking at major medals when you do that, as Tom has already done at World Gold and Olympic Bronze. But for Ryan, he'd love to break 20 metres. It's like the equivalent of a 4-minute miler. You join a relatively exclusive club when you get beyond 20 metres, and he'd love to do that, and obviously love to do that today.
Back at the women's hammer throw, and Nicole Bradley from North Harbour Bays.
That looked a good throw.
Got out something very good. That could be her best.
It looked really good. She's not given a huge amount of emotion as she comes out of the circle, but she looks pretty happy with herself. She'll be anxious to see what the distance was. But in terms of control and speed and the quality of the release and the accuracy as it went down the middle of the field, it looked pretty good to me. And then there's always that caveat as what do 5,000-metre runners know about hammer. But people watching will be far more technically competent than me and will make their own judgment. But that, to me, looked really good, and I think that could be close to her best today.
Although for people who don't know, though, Dave, of course, you do commentate on athletics meetings all around the world and have for a number of years.
Yes, I used to work for the BBC and still do bits, and I'm working for CBC, Canadian television, at the Olympic Games in Tokyo. But I tend to concentrate on the track and the distance events. But it's a joy to work with them, and it's nice to see a couple of Canadians competing here today.
66 and 56 there for Nicole Bradley, which is the best throw that I've seen of her so far. And now Lauren Bruce from South Canterbury stepping into the circle.
That was a good throw again, wasn't it? Again, I think with the exception of one throw when it went into the when she lost control, I think she's been possibly the most consistent thrower today, and certainly real control across the circle. And I think that could be close to her best today.
So far, she's been in the mid-60s with a couple of 65s. Good sequence, as you say, Dave, with 63 and 61 kicking it off, and she seems to have improved with this, we think. As we start to see some action from the other end of the stadium with the men's shot put underway, and we'll catch up on more of that shortly, of course. The number of field events now probably at its peak for the day.
65-39.
65 and 39 there for Lauren Bruce. So 65-73 remains her best today. And now Julia Radcliffe steps forward.
It looked really good early on in the throw. She was accelerating, but it looked also that she pulled it slightly. She didn't quite get the point of release perfect. Certainly didn't quite control her speed across the circle in the end, and the release was sort of flat and went off to the right. And I believe she's walked out the front of the circle. I'm not sure.
And back at the pole vault, a attempt fairly much pulled out of there with. Well, probably any athlete actually, Dave, but certainly with the top athletes, and we saw it there with Julia at the point of release. You could tell right from her body language, the sort of look down, that it wasn't what she wanted.
I can't emphasize enough that the difficulty of the hammer. There's so many things can go wrong, so many things you've got to get right. The accumulation of force needs to be perfect for it to be a long throw, and we'll see whether Gwen Berry can do that now. So it's a whole series of forces coming from different directions that gather to one point, and that's the release there. She's not firing on all cylinders today. I think she's probably done enough, Gwen Berry, to win, largely because Julia's not really firing either. But these women, when they really get it right, it's a completely different event. It's a completely different outcome, and it's a joy to behold when they do in this very highly technical event, when they do get it perfectly right.
Gwen, the only thrower beyond the 70-metre mark so far today, and she opened with a 69.43, followed with a 70 and 15, and that's been the best to date. They are measuring, in the process of measuring this throw. Back at the pole vault, just a field of 4 here, but an important meet for Olivia McTaggart. She failed at 4:02 at the weekend, which we know she's much more capable than that, and she'll be looking to bounce back today.
Behind your blocks, please, gentlemen.
We have Ryan Ballanti.
On your marks.
And a clear attempt there at the pole vault for Olivia McTaggart. And a throw for Ryan Ballanti down there, which looks like a very good effort actually, and he's continuing his form that he has shown the last couple of meetings, where he's improving his PB meet by meet.
So we are now underway in this men's 400-metre hurdles. The Kiwi athlete there to keep an eye on in lane 4, Michael Cochrane, running in the strip from Tauranga.
Michael's got the meeting record with a 50 and 62, but he has gone under 50 seconds in the past at his prime.
And in lane 5 there, Christopher Douglas from Australia as well. Personal best there of 50.32, so he's going to be one to watch.
He's travelling comfortably on the corner and well clear here, Christopher Douglas. And he'll come down to the applause of the crowd, and he's comfortably over the last and home in the 400-metre men's hurdles.
And it looks like Daniel Parks from Australia coming off our list as registered for Australia, but certainly Daniel Park's coming through there in third position in that men's 400-metre hurdles.
If you bear in mind that the A qualifying for the Olympic Games is 48.9, then the 51 seconds today is not really that close to that qualifying standard at the moment. But as we've said, there is a fairly strong wind tonight, which is far from ideal for pretty much all of the events, but certainly for the hurdlers.
Yeah, we will try and get some official results from some of those track events down to you as quickly as we can. Certainly for athletes like Cochrane, national record holder there in the 400-metre hurdles, 49.58. So he's certainly capable of running faster, but we will see how close he was to that performance tonight with that second place behind the Australian Christopher Douglas. Once again, another example of a top athlete coming down here and competing. Christopher Douglas, personal best there of 50.32. Athlete from Australia, competed at Iowa University. 6th in the 60-metre hurdles last year at the NCAA Championships indoors. So it's certainly great to see athletes like that have competed at a high level in the collegiate system in the States coming down here and having a crack at the New Zealand competition as well.
For anyone who's ever held one of these shots, it's a ridiculous distance that they throw. And there are two kind of primary techniques, the rotation and the glide. The vast majority of throwers now, including Tom Walsh, do the rotation, which probably enables you to release at a faster pace than the glide. But obviously more things can go wrong. Back to the pole vault, that was a good jump.
Imogen Iris there from Takapuna, who has been in some pretty good form of late, with her personal best coming recently across the meeting in Canberra with 4:30, and finishing second to Olivia McTaggart at the Potts Classic in Hastings at the end of last month with a 4:20. And looking comfortable there at the moment. Alexandra Holly from Australia, for whom the competition hasn't gone to plan so far today. She opened with a couple of no throws. She got on the board with a third throw, but hasn't really put it together so far today. But it hasn't been a stellar day for any of them in the competition, which would suggest that just the conditions, they're just not finding quite to their liking, certainly not to the same extent that they did at the Porritt Classic in Hamilton.
The great consolation she has is you only need one throw to go a long way. And, you know, she's had 5 pretty average throws by her own standards today. But if she did hit it right, and there's no evidence at the moment that she will, but if she did, then, you know, she is capable of certainly beating Julia. But none of the evidence today indicates that this is going to go a huge distance. But I kind of think, and I wonder and I hope that Julia's got one left in her, that she can let it fly.
Again, sorry, Dave, just again, immediately she threw that, and I didn't want to preempt anything too much. I thought, I will wait for this to land, but you could tell instantly the eyes went down and she wasn't happy with that.
Now, body language of athletes generally is always fascinating, but for field eventers, it tells you the whole story. You know, from sort of Bob Beamon breaking the world record in Mexico in the long jump in 1968, leaping around immediately done it because he knew he'd made history, to the relatively somber body language we've seen today in this field event that hasn't as of yet really come alive. Not at the top end anyway. It's a good throw.
Nicole Bradley getting it out there from North Harbour Bays.
And we just caught a quick glimpse there of the women's high jump. They're now up to 1 metre 82. So when we head back over there, we will see who the next athlete to compete is. It looks as though it may be Josephine Reeves from Wellington.
Just waiting that distance to come up for Nicole before Lauren Bruce steps into the circle one more time. Failed attempt there at the pole vault. 4 of them, so they're rotating quite quickly, Dave, and I guess that also has a bearing on your performance as well.
Yeah, we've at the major games you might have 20 people in your pool, and so you have quite a long wait between each attempt. But an event like this, when there's a relatively small field, you find you're taking an attempt pretty much soon after the previous one.
295 is Jan Josef Shade with a very good put. German athlete, we'll see if we can get a distance on that down there. We've got our eyes going several ways at the moment with 5 field events in action.
No, that's a nice technique. They're one of the few left-handed throwers. Again, as we've seen throughout the competition, really controlled, really consistent, and Lauren has done really well today.
As you say, her consistency, while her top throw hasn't been what she has been, or just a little down on what she's been producing around the 67 mark, comparatively speaking with the others today, she's been consistently closer to what she's been throwing of late than what the others are. And here's Julia's opportunity to try and pull something out of the bag.
So the order of the final 3 throws in a competition is determined by the who's leading at the end of the 3rd round. So Julia in 2nd place throws second to last, and Gwen in 1st place has the opportunity to throw last. So as we might see at a championship, Julia now could, and I think she'll be psyching herself up now with that kind of, I've got nothing to lose, let's just go for it. And this is her opportunity to throw way beyond 70 metres, which she's capable of, and put a lot of pressure on Gwen. So come on, real big effort.
Just gave it the shriek.
That was a great
huge
throw.
It's beyond 70 metres.
And it stayed within the sector. It was beyond 70 metres. You could see everything in that effort was, I hesitate to say shit or bust, but you know exactly what I mean. It was that notion, I've got nothing to lose. I'm safely in 2nd place. I've really got an opportunity to put pressure on Gwen now. I'm not going to get the Olympic qualifying today, but she's getting closer. And that was a terrific effort. It was full of energy, full of determination, full of control, but equally full of ambition, really. She really went for it. And whether she's taken the lead, I'm not sure. We kind of hope she has, both from a New Zealand perspective, but also to see if it brings out the best in Gwen and her final throw.
Best I've seen for Gwen was 70 and 15, and Julia has gone beyond the 70 metre mark now, not by far, so it's going to be close as they measure that, and then Gwen will get the opportunity to know what she has to do, potentially, in the last throw to reclaim the lead if Julia's thrown beyond 70 and 15 here. But Julia would be delighted with that. She's pulled a few left today, including that one, but she got the little shriek out, and again, 70 and 53. She's in front.
That's fantastic, isn't it? And the tactics of this event now mean that Gwen Berry has the opportunity, as she throws last, to regain the lead. And this is when the excitement of the hammer, and what makes it a special event, is that it's absolutely not over until that final throw is taken.
Went extremely high and has fallen well short of the 70 metres. Gwen Berry of the United States with her last throw. It looks like Julia Ratcliffe has pinched it with her last throw.
Great scalp, great scalp. The distance wasn't fantastic for Julia, but the scalp is really important. And, she had 5 pretty average throws, I think, by her own standard. But that ability to find something when you really need to was evident in that final throw. And she won the competition. That was great.
And everything about that too, the way she released it, shrieked, she felt it was good, and then of course the clap, and for the first time today probably we've seen Julia Ratcliffe happy.
Very much so, and so she should be. So the women's 800, one of my favourite New Zealand athletes, Angie Petty, because she's so tough and so hard and would just go for it, and she's doing that now in the women's 800 metres.
See, a little bit of a surprise to see Angie in the 800 this evening. We were expecting her to be running the 1500. There was points on offer, but certainly looking at for a bit of a hit out over the 800. Had a good run the other night running 2:05. Certainly not a lot of competition for her this evening, but as we can see, she's going out nice and hard, and she's coming around now 300 metre mark, and certainly out the front all by herself.
Yep, and speaking to her husband just before the event, is that I think she's made a late decision to go for the 800, and it's not inconceivable that she might do the 1500 as well. But what we're looking for as she goes through the bell is something around 60 seconds. So she's going to be just a little bit off that pace, 61, 62.
Yeah,
so that's fast, but if she wanted to get close to 2 minutes, she'd needed to have been under 60 seconds at the bell. But she's such a tough runner. She's had a great career. Hopefully a lot more in front of her, but 8 and 15. But just one of the toughest, hardest, most determined. Her head down into the wind now.
Yeah, look, really good run coming from Ariana Harper in second, training partner of Angie Petty, so she's been getting some really good training in now that she's made the move down to Christchurch to train with the Petty crew. And I saw when they came through there at the bell, Maya Ramsden from Wellington Harry is the youngster, 18 years old. She was in third place, so we'll keep an eye on that battle for third.
Yeah, Ariana probably until, down the back straight, had Angie in her sights, but Angie just took off again, got her head down again. And she represents everything that's great about distance running, middle distance running in New Zealand, that just ability to get your head down and go for it. So a really good run by Angie, about 2 minutes 5. Ariana, I think, is going to hang on to second place, just.
Yeah, Ariana just holding on to second place there. Third place to Maya Ramsden, and Christy Solomon, up-and-coming youngster there from Franklin, 17 years old. Really good run for her up against this good quality New Zealand competition.
I don't know what they're lying down at the end of the race for, as if they've worked hard. No, it's a high oxygen debt race, the 800 metres. You get to the bell and you think you've still got a little bit left, but when you're going around the top bend and just with 100 metres to go, you suddenly realise your legs have gone, and that last 100 metres is agony. Often in the 800 metres, the last 200 metres is the slowest part of the race.
And very difficult when you're out in front by yourself, Dave, as well, the mental game.
It is, but Angie's used to that. She's, pretty much in recent years, whenever I've seen her compete, she's always prepared to take it from the front and always prepared to try and run the legs out of the opposition.
Christopher Douglas receiving his winner's medal for the 400 metre men's hurdles as we head to the high jump, and the competition now heading up as we get up to 186.
Now 186 is getting serious now. For all the jumpers watching this evening, you know that this is beginning to get serious. And it's important that the jumpers get as few failures as possible, which may sound daft, but it's true, is that at the end of the competition, if there are a number of athletes or more than one athlete who are on the same height, then they have a count back, which is based around the number of failures that you've taken along the way. There's a huge amount of tactics in the high jump as well, in that people might deliberately miss a height when it gets to the sharp end of the competition to put extra pressure on the opposition. And we've got the joy of watching one of the judges putting the bar on, and it looks like a tall gentleman to me, but the bar is higher than him. And I never cease to be amazed at how high these athletes are able to jump. It almost defies all the physics that I ever learnt at school. They're contradicting gravity, really, the way they fly through the air.
And certainly we've got a couple of the finest from down under, and Nicola Mcdermott here in the women's high jump, and of course later 3 of the very best Australians, including Brandon Stark. And we talk about heights, 236 just seems quite extraordinary. We've got the men's long jump medal ceremony about to take place, and Natsuki Yamakawa from Japan, as expected, are victorious, although the jumps that we saw probably a fraction down on the distance he recorded on Sunday when he was second in the Sir Graham Douglas meet.
So on a point of interest here, we as we're watching the men's long jump presentation, Alan Stevens actually in behind there doing the presentation, was on the IAAF World Cross Country, or the Cross Country Committee for a number of years. So I remember the fun, I guess, of travelling away to the World Cross Country Champs and having a little bit of influence there with someone on the committee that was able to pull some strings when we needed athletes changed into different events and things like that. So certainly a well-known face around in athletics, and certainly international athletics as well.
Yeah, Alan's been a mainstay of the world distance scene for many, many years, and there's always a danger that the world committees are dominated by European or North American people, but it's really important that spokespeople from the Southern Hemisphere get onto these major committees, and obviously Valerie Adams now having an influence at the Olympic level is really important.
Back to the women's pole vault, just on that long jump though, we saw Lewis Arthur of North Harbour Bays finishing second. He was third on Sunday, and third was Ari Kawad Chang, a 16-year-old, and again he'll benefit from his outing today, jumping against Yamakawa. Mr. Temp there for Imogen Iris at the pole vault. Back to the high jump, and Eleanor Patterson from Australia, number 224, about to attempt 1.90 metre.
So as we're switching between these field events at the moment, just a quick update on the men's 800 that we will see kick off on the track in just a minute. They have split that into 3 events, so we will kick off with the Heat 1 and 2 in just a few moments, and then we will see Nick Willis in action in the Elite Men's 800 later this evening. I believe that's about 7:30 for the Elite Men's 800.
And Helena Patterson from Australia in the women's high jump just cleared 190, and would you believe it, another meeting record?
She's got a best of 196, and that has been this season as well. Here is her compatriot Nicola Mcdermott, bronze medalist at the 2018 Commonwealth Games with a best of 196, and certainly the pressure will go on her now with Eleanor Patterson's clean jump first up at 190.
Having a little chat with Nicola last night at the Athletes Dinner, I asked her what she was going for. She said personal best of 196. She's going to jump 2 metres tonight, as she said. So certainly some confidence coming in here, but also up against some pretty good competition.
Conditions seem good for them. If anything, that wind, just from our vantage point anyway, seems to have died away in the last few minutes, but certainly they were waiting for their time. Nicola just waiting for the right time, and now trying to get the crowd involved as well.
That was a good clearance, great stuff. And look at that, we talked about body language. She's delighted with that because there's more to come. There's a nice little crowd gathering behind each of the field events. So the crowd that was at the long jump has now moved to the high jump and is creating its own atmosphere as the men's 800 begins. Great jump.
And Reece, the 800 metres having to be split up with a great number of entrants tonight.
Yeah, so I think we've ended up with, I think about 23, 24 entrants. There's a couple of these athletes in this race that certainly would have been hoping they got one of those late lanes and doubled up in the elite race, but I guess at the quality that we're seeing in some of these events tonight, they wanted to keep it safe and one athlete per lane.
I think these guys are looking to run around about 150. So they'll be hoping to go through in 55 seconds or faster, 53, 54 seconds. So this is off that pace. So that was a relatively slow first lap, depending on the personal best of these athletes.
Well, Josh Barry went through in front. His personal best is 155.4, which he did at home recently.
Yeah, I think it looks like that athlete there in second might be the Bays athlete, Stephen Langdon, coached by Chris Pallone.
Now, so much happens over the final 200. They've got a swirling wind. The wind, I think, is going to be slightly behind them as they come into the straight. But this is when fatigue really will kick in. But tactics become so important. You only have one opportunity to make a positive move.
Zach Bellamy attacking on the outside here, but Josh Barry has got a kick. Zach trying hard, and late in the piece here is Jack Waterworth.
Yeah, and Jack Waterworth, another one of those, coming off a personal best at the Porritt Classic just a couple of weeks ago. A youngster just moving into the senior ranks in 2020. So great to see him running well, maybe taking that time down a little bit. He'll be aiming maybe for a final place in the senior.
Yeah, his second lap was faster than the first lap. I think the first lap was round about 60 seconds. The second lap was 57 seconds. But he controlled it from the front. He held off the opposition, and he was brave and strong enough to dominate from the front. And back to the shot net.
German athlete Jan-Josef Yeshade has been putting well down there.
Yeah, and something to be aware of with these heats that we're seeing in the 800. Might not be the elite that we're going to see later on this evening, but a number of these athletes looking to maybe get a last-minute kind of warm-up leading into the national champs next week, and certainly with the heats and finals set up with the national championships, a number of these athletes will certainly be hoping, yep, they can make that step up and maybe make that final, the senior men's or junior men's.
Yeah, and these now 193 in the high jump. That was close. But this is seriously high now. This is getting towards the kind of 196 and ultimately 2-meter world class attempt. Yeah, with the national championships next week, that's the reason we haven't got lots of 5,000 meters long distance races, is that would be too long, too far to run a week before nationals. But 1500, 800 and obviously all the technical events are perfect. So as we go into the next heat of the 800 meters, and I think as each heat goes by, we would expect the times to be faster and faster, and getting closer to sort of the 150, 152 range. But you can see them head down, battling into the wind. It has died down somewhat, but the heads are down as they go into the wind, and the heads come up as they find the wind behind them, and they have to take advantage of that.
And it looks like we've got Josh Nean there, the local athlete. He's a 152 runner. He's currently leading out in this men's 800, Heat 2.
Benjamin Wall lying second at the moment. And
yeah, Benjamin Wall, one of the actually athletes that we want to keep an eye out here for. They're going for, he ran, I think, 350 at Porritt just a week or so ago. He's aiming for a World Junior qualifier this season in the 1500. So he's not far off that. So a good blowout for him tonight in this 800. It'll be interesting to see how he comes home in this last 300 metres.
It is, again, a kind of Untitled type performance right from the front. But he went through the bell in 55 seconds, which is about spot on. If you want to go 150, maybe slightly beyond that, but it looks like he's tying up a little bit. And the huge advantage the four athletes chasing him have is that they can spot him, they can see him, he can't see them, but he can sense them. And as they close in, it's a pretty isolated, horrible position to be in. But he's a tough little runner, Josh, and I'm sure he'll get his head down and give it his all.
And keeping an eye on the outside there from Hastings, Mitchell Snell. His father's the physiotherapist for the meet, Tony Snell, well known in athletics in New Zealand. And a strong run coming from Mitchell Snell on the outside.
He got up to win over Benjamin Wall and a great finish.
We talked about tactics before. That was perfect timing. He held back long enough to be confident that when he did accelerate, he could win the race. And that was a really significant performance. Tactically perfect. You only get really one attempt, one chance to make a really positive move in the 800 metres. A lot can go wrong in the 800. It's almost like flat out chess. But he timed that to perfection. And the time was about 1:53 at the end. Yeah. So I was chatting to Mitchell's father earlier today, who himself is an eminent physiotherapist within sport in New Zealand, but also is taking part in Masters middle distance himself. But he'll make a mental note not to take his son on, because Mitchell ran really well there. A really good performance, and he's well capable of getting down to 150 now. I think it's a terrific run, and his dad will be chuffed. Mitchell will be delighted. Yeah, but he's certainly a guy capable of running a lot faster.
Dave, I think it's I'm not sure whether it's the beauty of athletics or one of the curses of athletics. You can keep competing in the sport well into the Masters grades, and unfortunately for those of us with kids that are starting to come through and maybe get involved in athletics or cross country and those kind of things, you start to have to think at some stage, at what point do you decide to pack it in before your kids start beating you?
I think most distance runners know that when their children go past them at the age of 9, then their career is pretty much over. And I guess with Tony Snell, Mitchell Snell's dad, is that Mitchell probably ran past him many, many years ago on their training sessions, and probably nobody would be more pleased than Tony himself.
Well, look, and Dave, I know you're familiar with the parkrun phenomenon around the world, and certainly my 8-year-old took on the parkrun first time about 2 weeks ago and smashed his mum's 5K parkrun PB. First time up as an 8-year-old, so I think it's already starting to happen in our family.
Here we have back at the high jump, and Nicola Mcdermott about to go, 193.
And that was actually 196, so they've really moved on.
They have. So she was aiming there at what has been her personal best, and of course she picked up bronze in the 2018 Commonwealth Games with that 196, and that is the Olympic qualifying effort which she has achieved.
So each athlete gets 3 attempts at this height. My guess is they'll all take all 3 attempts at 196, but they do have it within their gift to pass this height if they wanted to and move straight on to 2 meters or 198.
I'm wondering, obviously, we're looking around at several field events at the moment, and we're moving with them and getting you the live action as best we can here on Sky Sport Next. And Dave, perhaps Nicola Mcdermott passed 193?
Did she? I'm not sure.
I'm guessing.
I think she might have done. But I'm looking out for Ryan Ballanti. I haven't seen a huge amount of him yet, but I'd like to see, because I know he's thrown well into the 19 metres, top end 19 today. So, and that's the difficulty of trying to follow so many events.
Got a truncated program here, of course. No lights at Newtown Park in Wellington, so it all has to be done by about 7:45.
Yeah.
We've seen a bit of the German, though, and he's been going extremely well once again.
A great tradition of shot discus in Germany. Not their best athletes here today, but they're all more than competent.
Eleanor Patterson, 196, but she took a fair piece of that.
Yeah. When it gets down to just 1, 2, maybe 3 competitors left in a competition, as you mentioned before, they don't get a huge amount of recovery between each attempt. So they've got to keep warm, they've got to keep alert, but they've got to keep their concentration going, because they cannot relax between each attempt. They're pretty much back into the next one.
Ryan Ballanti here for you, Dave. You asked, and here we go with Ryan.
So the beauty of having some comments coming through on the
So
on the live stream here. Someone's just clarifying for us that Nicola did clear 193 there on the first attempt.
So it's difficult to see the distance that Ryan threw, and it's getting closer to that 20-metre mark. He does the same technique as Tom Walsh, his training partner. Not quite the same distances, but not far off. You know, it's a guy that once he gets beyond 20 metres, he can join the sort of Tom Walsh club of mixing it at the elite level, going off to major championships and hopefully at least qualifying for finals.
Nicola Mcdermott about to make her second attempt at 196.
That was closer, wasn't it? Oh, it falls back.
She's attacking the bar very confidently. She really feels like she can do this.
Yeah. We get Ballantine's throw.
We're live at Newtown Park in Wellington for the Team Ledger Harcourts Capital Classic, the 16th running, 2020 edition. And at the moment we've got the men's shot put going to the left with Ryan Ballanti doing battle with Jan-Josef Juschad from Germany. And down at the high jump, two Australians attacking 196. Eleanor Patterson next up after Nicola Mcdermott brought the bar down with her previous effort. Eleanor did clatter it in the previous attempt, but concentrating here, she has cleared it before.
We didn't see Ryan Ballantine's distance, did we? We know it's over 19 metres, but I wasn't too sure whether it was close to 20, so apologies for that. We will, I'm sure, get that distance later.
I've been struggling to find the board down there, actually. So there's nothing sort of coming our way, but anyway, top end, 100 metres. Now they look to be getting into action, and here's Eleanor Patterson at the high jump, and she's cleared it. 196. She takes the lead and puts the pressure on Nicola Mcdermott. Heat one of the 100 metres coming down.
Yeah, so it looks like James Robertson in the middle there, just on the outside of him, Liam Montgomery. So Liam Montgomery in the orange there from Wairarapa Track and Field.
I think Helena Patterson's successful attempt at 196 is not only a meet record, but I think it's also a New Zealand all-comers record, which is pretty impressive. And depending on what happens now for this final attempt from Nicola will determine whether Patterson can go attempt 2 metres on her own.
They'll certainly bring the best out in each other, and this has been the highlight to date of the field events that we've had.
It's fantastic. Come on, she's got, you can see the concentration, you can see the determination. Great.
And she's responded.
Fantastic.
She's responded perfectly. Look to be a bit of room there too, Dave.
There was real room. You know, the two of them, I guess now, will go for 2 metres. Maybe not, but probably go for 2 metres. And we'll try and bring the best out of each other. And, you know, there was a World Championships I was at recently when I think the bronze was won in '96. It's probably not usually won at less than 2 metres, but it's kind of world class and close to being medals at World and Olympics. So, but the big one is 2 metres, and you know you've really arrived as a women's world-class high jumper when you've cleared 2 metres, and that'll be going through both their minds. I can't believe the bar's gone up to 199. Surely that's not true.
You would like to think not. or is this for their mental well-being? Is the 2 metre barrier just too much?
Again, apologies for ignorance, but it goes up in increments each height until there's only one athlete left in, and that one athlete can then determine what height they go for. So it may well be that it goes up in 3 centimetre increments, and that because there's 2 athletes left, it has to go to 199. But if it had gone to only 1 athlete left, then that athlete could have chosen to go straight to 2 metres. And again, hopefully, through the joys of the website, somebody can tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, what I can do, joys of anzrankings.org.nz, the wonderful Athletics New Zealand ranking site, we can confirm that 1 metre 96 jump there, that is a New Zealand all-comers record. It beats the jump from 1991 by the New Zealander Tanya Murray of 192.
Another heat of the men's 100 metres to go. Of course, we're all looking forward to seeing Edward osei-nketia underway here, though. And number 216.
So it looks like a strong start there from Elliot Nye from Christchurch. On the inside there, Oliver Krynen from another local from Mana Athletic Club. Looks like Mana, the local athletic club from out here in Porirua, are doing well here this evening. So Elliot Nye, a good run there from Christchurch.
Obviously, I don't know these athletes, but I have this notion that the great speed that these guys is nurtured on the rugby fields, and it works both ways. That the combination of athletics and rugby is a wonderful combination. Learning to run fast through track and field and taking that speed onto the paddock for rugby. And I know historically in the UK, certainly when I was a kid, a lot of the local outstanding rugby players were also really high quality track runners as well.
And Reece, I see you've got the field there for Heat 3 of the 100 metres with Edward osei-nketia in lane number 4. I came to this meeting as a spectator a year ago to bring my then 7-year-old son to watch Joseph Miller, the fastest man in New Zealand at the time. And of course we were here and got to witness the sensation that was Edward osei-nketia, and we've monitored his progress over the past 12 months. It's been outstanding, and he looked very comfortable running against some of the fastest men in the world at the World Championships.
Absolutely, he's a class act. And I don't know where the wind gauge is today. Well, we can see where the wind gauge is, but we can't see what the reading is. But it looks like it's a significant following wind, probably in excess of 2 metres. So times won't actually count for records or for qualifying. But if it was exactly 2 metres or just short, then it could be an advantageous wind. If it drops slightly, it could be perfect.
Nicola Mcdermott's missed her attempt at 199. As Eleanor Patterson over the back makes her attempt.
The judges are meticulously measuring it. It's measured at the centre of the bar to make sure that it's absolutely 199, not slightly under or slightly over. Because I mean, it's already a New Zealand record, the previous height 96, but now, for record purposes, it needs to be spot on.
Ryan Ballanti at the shot put. He's pushing towards that 20-metre mark.
I've just seen him walking away. He doesn't look ecstatic. I don't know, maybe a little bit frustrated, but his rotational technique is Walsh-like. It's really good. Product of great coaching.
And they're underway here with Edward osei-nketia in the middle, and he has been beaten to the line here by Gian Felton from Christchurch, and Cody Wilson not far away either in lane number 3 and 3rd spot. Edward osei-nketia just a little slow out of the blocks there, and just taking some time to wind up. And this will be a significant win for Gian Felton. Looks like he's held on from Ed and Cody Wilson, who's been running very well the last couple of weeks in 3rd.
I think when you start looking at the ages of those 3 athletes, 20 years old, 19 and 20, certainly some good youngsters coming through in the sprinting crop in New Zealand at the moment.
10.54 was Gian's previous best from the Christchurch Old Boys Club. Team Ledger Harcourts men's discus to get underway with Yuji Tsutsumi and his rivals being introduced to the crowd here. And it's a very, very good field with Connor Bell throwing extremely well, one of our up-and-comers. 63 and 25 at the Potts Classic, the 3rd best thrower of a New Zealander of all time. Got Mitchell Cooper from Australia. 63 and 98.
Nicola Mcdermott's first attempt at 199, which was a failure. They're obsessive with technique, with getting the angle of takeoff right, that they jump up, not into the bar, that they don't allow their hips to drop. But that was a decent attempt, but not really one that that she knows she's got to statement the obvious, but get it more perfect to get to a personal best now of 199.
Connor Bell's number 116 there in the discus, if you are not familiar with him. And he's been throwing close to his underage records at the Auckland Championships recently as well, and a very real prospect for New Zealand. 139 there, Mitchell Cooper from Australia that I mentioned. 60.87 is best this season, but 63.98 is capable of. And a 292 there at the end, who I have not on my list, so I have to update my list for the men's discus throw. And Nathaniel Salupo of Samoa. Now the women underway in the 100 metres. And number 195 coming through in the first heat of the women's 100 metres. Another victory for Gina Mapples from Whanganui Athletics in the first heat. Running well too, Lily Szabo from Upper Hutt up the road here.
As that women's 100 heat was happening, Eleanor Patterson had her first attempt, and she knocked the bar over on the way up, almost leant into the bar as she tried to reach her optimal height. So as far as we're aware, both Nicola Mcdermott and Eleanor Patterson have had one failure at 199. Massive psychological barrier here, because this is territory they've never been into before. They're looking at a bar and a height that they've never previously surpassed. But that's the nature of personal bests. You have to find something that you've never found before. It doesn't appear that either Eleanor or Nicola are having any communication during the competition, which is always quite interesting. Some chat away quite merrily, but now it's head to head. It's almost like a heavyweight boxing battle. Two people left in. And Nicola Mcdermott, the first to have a second attempt at a new personal best of 1.99 m.
Olivia McTaggart just getting the winner's medal from the women's pole vault that we saw earlier over in front of us. And here is Nicola Mcdermott, as Dave said, and also looking down. Here she is, attacking 199. Oh! She looked like she had the height and just the trailing leg. Dave brought it down, but her body, her torso was certainly clear.
I think irrespective of whether she achieves 199 tonight or not, she'll go away from this competition knowing she's capable of it. That was so close, wasn't it? And, you know, the kind of margin of error in this sort of event is so fine. But it appeared to have everything other than just that ability, just that final.
Our premier female sprinter on the blocks, or about to be, the 100-metre mark, Zoe Hobbs. She's been in outstanding form. She ran 11:42 here last year. 11:37 is her best. She won in Auckland at the weekend 11:38. She set a meet record at the Porritt Classic 11:65, and at Hastings last month she ran 11:38 as well at the Potts Classic. Zoe Hobbs, eyes on her. Rosie Elliott next door to her as they get underway here. Zoe Hobbs out well. Rosie Elliott on the inside trying to stay with her, but once again we'll watch Zoe Hobbs go through and we'll see what sort of time she can run. Rosie Elliott home in second place, and Taylor Brunner home in third.
Good run, wasn't it? Great one. We'll get confirmation of the time. She needs 11:15 to get the automatic A Olympic qualification. That will determine that, but so strong. And I don't know what the wind speed is today. It possibly is beyond 2 meters, although it's swirling. But that was a dominant performance, wasn't it?
And with Zoe, she will certainly be looking to collect the points out of these events. We go back to the high jump. Eleanor Patterson, 199. She's over. A new personal best, the New Zealand all-comers record to Eleanor Patterson, and a seriously world-class jump we've just seen here in Wellington.
That was terrific, wasn't it? And I think, look at the first person to congratulate, if you can see it, is Nicola Mcdermott. So they intense rivalry, but great friendship as well. But still time for Mcdermott to put it right and to balance it out and to try and achieve what Eleanor Patterson has done, which is a new personal best of 199.
Looked like almost the personal, the perfect jump, Dave, in that she was only just over it, but she flicked up her legs there at the perfect time, and it was very smooth leap for considering she's going that height for the first time.
This Fosbury flop technique obviously has taken over the high jump since 1968 when Dick Fosbury introduced it. And it looks relatively simple, but it is intensely complicated, and timing is crucial. You know, the control of speed on the run-up, the point of takeoff, driving high, not into the bar, not allowing your shoulder to lean, and then the synchronized, perfectly timed layout across the bar that all has to happen without the advantage of being able to control anything beyond once you've taken off. Your whole body position is controlled before takeoff, but the way they manage to get the timing as a consequence of the way of their takeoff is so impressive. And that 199, we've got a picture there of Tony Rogers, the meet director, former Olympic 1500 meter finalist. But now Nicola Mcdermott has the opportunity to, assuming she's still in the competition.
I think she may have finished, Dave, because the bar's gone to 2:01.
That's it then. So Nicola Mcdermott, we missed one of her failed attempts. So she had 3 attempts and failed. So now Eleanor Patterson has the option of choosing whatever height she wants, and she'll clearly go beyond 2 meters, but I think she's going for 2:01.
So I think this is an opportunity for us to start looking back at some old performances. I think we might be looking back to the 1990 Commonwealth Games in Auckland to have a standard of high jump for the woman on New Zealand soil. So we'll see if we can get those details back for you.
269 at the Discus is Yuji Tsutsumi from Japan, national champion and best this season of 61 and 64.
So again, apologies for being a distance runner, but from what what high jumpers and pole vaulters tell me, but particularly high jumpers, is that when you've done one personal best, it's incredibly difficult to do another. Because psychologically, to get the personal best, you look at a height you've never ever done before. But the euphoria of achieving that height and the excitement of it, and almost the fear of looking at the height beyond that is incredibly difficult to come to terms with. So it'll be a monumental effort if she can not only just do a personal best at 199, but even exceed that and go to 2:01. Fingers crossed she does, but this is a huge psychological effort. But done in the knowledge that she already has victory in the bag, but she already has a massive personal best, which is phenomenal.
And the share of $4,000 prize money for that.
Share of $4,000, yep. This is so high.
Concentration, she's shutting out all around her, and so Eleanor Patterson, 199, new personal best. Well clear of the Olympic qualifying mark of 196, which she'd already achieved before tonight. New Zealand all-comers record now, and the bar at 2 meters and 1.
That was close, wasn't it? That is within her capability.
And yeah, just a confirmation there for you. So the Commonwealth Games back all the way back in 1990, 6 athletes clearing 1 metre 88, with the gold medal there going to Tanya Murray with a height of 1 metre 88. So would be the great time to have our Athletics New Zealand statistician Steve Hollings on deck here to be able to fill us in and tell us how that's progressed since then. But look, when we're having women jumping 196 and now going for 201, it's certainly a competition for the ages at Newtown Park.
If Steve is watching, he could help us out, because Steve and I go back a long way. I was competing in the British team when he was a POM. He's a proper Kiwi now. But Steve was an outstanding.
Men's 400 metres, Luke Mursika, who's been running extremely well over the past couple of weeks, is going to kick away and score over Louis Northcott from Parapara Umu. We're just awaiting our pitches to come back here, but we'll keep you abreast with what we can take in. We've got the men's discus in action to the left. Those pitches back now. And Eleanor Patterson with a third and final attempt at 2 metres 1 at the women's high jump down in front of us. And on the track, we've just seen the men's 400 metres, and Luke Mursika from Canterbury University, won at the Porritt Classic, has added another win at the Capital Classic.
Yeah, so just another quick update for you there. So apologies for the technical difficulties. It appears as though we did just have a power cable unplugged down underneath the stadium here at Newtown Park. So we look to have that all resolved and back online and live for you again.
And in the women's high jump, we have an athlete that's already broken the New Zealand all-comers record and a lifetime best of 1 metre 99, Eleanor Patterson, who's now going to attempt clearly a lifetime best height of 2 metres and 1 centimetre to become the first athlete from Oceania to clear 2 metres in history. Her final attempt. Again, close, but not close enough. Her first attempt was probably her best. It is so difficult to do a personal best and then to even exceed that personal best. But 199 is world class. It's right in the medal zone, and it was a monumental competition between her and her colleague Nicola Mcdermott, both from Australia. But true world class high jumping here in New Zealand. Really wonderful to watch. And it'd be fantastic for the young New Zealand high jumpers who've stayed in the circuit, in the fan, to observe it, to watch it, to learn, and now all embracing each other.
Yeah, we're just seeing the other athletes there walking over to congratulate Eleanor. I see Keely O'Hagan from Wellington and Josephine Reeves. Certainly, like you say, an opportunity for them to jump up against one of the world's best high jumpers.
It is, and it's the only way you can learn, really. You need to train hard, you need to do everything technically right, but competition's where it's at. And competition with the best in the world brings the best out of people, helps them develop. And back to the men's discus.
Nathaniel Salopo from Samoa.
So the benchmark in men's discus is 60 metres, and we've got a number of athletes today who've exceeded that or are capable of it. The majority of decent throwers, are in the kind of 50-metre range, which I think that one was. But it's when you get to 60 metres that you're beginning to get to world class. And high sixes is what's needed for medals at major championships.
So underway successfully here in the NZIS women's 400 metres. 4 athletes there: Emma Douglas, Sophie Atkinson, Shannon Geary and Charlotte Holland. Looks like a pretty even start on the inside there. Emma Douglas from Olympic Wellington running well. And the athlete there from Auckland City, Sophie Atkinson, also going well in lane 4. So once again, two leading junior athletes, and 1:43 there from Olympic Wellington. Emma Douglas in lane 4, just on the outside of her number 105, Sophie Atkinson. They're both going very well, both juniors still.
And inside coming through.
And a good finish there from Emma Douglas. Shannon Geary from Christchurch, looks like Christchurch Old Boys there from the singlet, coming through for 3rd position.
Emma Douglas timed that well, didn't she? 400 is a high anaerobic event. You're running out of oxygen the closer you get to the line. It's one thing to better run 300 metres fast, but to run 400 is different. So many athletes go too fast too early on, and so much can happen over the last 100, and Emma Douglas timed it perfectly just to get that victory.
Women's high jump results there with Eleanor Patterson, and confirmation of seeing something special tonight with her clearing 188, 190, then stepping to 196 and a clearance at 199. Nicola Mcdermott has to be happy with her night's work though, Dave, too, equalling her personal best at 196.
Absolutely.
And the highlight of a very busy field program to date has been that women's high jump. Another heat of the women's 400 metres about to take place, which will include Portia Bing in lane number 4. Portia's already been out there earlier this afternoon and run another very good 400 metre hurdles with one other competitor, which she was obviously comfortably clear of. And Portia's been battling the conditions, very windy conditions on Sunday, ran an outstanding time there given the conditions. Today she was excellent again over the hurdles, and no slouch, of course, on the flat with a 53.48 best.
400 hurdlers usually come from either a 100 hurdles background, women, or a 400 background, or both. And for someone like Portia, it's really important. Not only is she competent over the hurdles, but that she's fast. And the way to learn to become faster is to do more and more 400s, flat 400s. And a lot of 400 hurdlers are also really good relay runners. They have the ability, they can break up their rhythm as it happens in a relay. So I'm sure Portia's well used to running the individual 4 hurdles and then following it with the individual 400 on the same day.
Yeah, look, and you can't go past the strength that she will have as a junior athlete coming through 5th at the World Juniors in 2012 in the heptathlon. She's a national title holder across long jump, heptathlon, 200 metres, 100 hurdles and 400 hurdles. So certainly there's no doubt the cross-training that comes from doing that number of events certainly puts her in good stead, whether she's hitting the hurdles or the flat 400.
Serious competitor in lane number 3 next to Portia, Angeline Blackburn from Australia with a best of 52 and 71. Should be a good battle, and it'll be good to see here young Annalise Karma take another step forward too. Annalise in lane 5, and Benderia Boyer from Australia on the outside of this group.
And I think the question we're going to be asking after this, if Portia can break another meet record, does she get 2 dips at the course record bonus?
I'd like to think she would.
Unquestionably, and that's very achievable with a meet record of 54.07. Portia Bing in front, Angeline Blackburn, though, will make ground on the bend. Portia's running very strongly though, and out wider Annalise Karma is hanging as tough as she can, but Portia Bing is comfortably clear here. A win very comfortably from Angeline Blackburn, and Annalise Karma making a race of 2nd and 3rd, but the young athlete will be 3rd. How'd we go for time? Get times confirmed when we can, but gee, Portia's in very good form at the moment.
Yeah, so we are getting some official results coming through to us, so we do know that some of those results are coming up on the screen as we go through. So just in case some of them haven't been clear or you have missed them, just confirming from earlier, we did have a meet record there in the first event of the evening in the 400 metre hurdles, Porsche being a time of 56.55, and that was followed up by the Australian Christopher Douglas with a meet record in the men's 400 hurdles in a time of 50.43. So really, really good start to the evening. We're going to go through and see if we can count up. I think we might be looking at 10 plus meet records here this evening, so certainly we're off to a good start.
I was trying to do a calculation in terms of the number of records, but I think we might get closer to 10 by the end of it. So,
yeah, and also just a confirmation there on the women's 800. So a finishing time there for Angie Petty, 2:05.77. So she'll be happy with that. Pretty similar to what she ran up in Auckland just a few days ago, and shows she's in good shape coming into the national championships next
really
week.
good night's work.
And having to do it all herself out in front, Angie Petty earlier in that 800 metres.
Yeah, and we're just waiting to see the final event sheets, heat sheets come through for the women's 1500. There was a little rumour there that we may see Angie stepping back out in the 1500 a little bit later as part of, I guess, a good training night.
Matthew Denny from Australia just there at the Discus, Ace Sports men's 1500 metres. And 17 names there, Reece, and some that you will know obviously. And Sam Petty in there, and he's been running well. Thomas Strawbridge, up and coming local.
Yeah, and our own local Japanese athlete there, Hiro Tanamoto, is more well known as a 10K runner, so it would be great to see him jumping out here in the 800, in the 1500 this evening.
The key middle distance event tonight, though, is the 800 metres races. We see Tony Rogers, the former Olympian and meet director here, chatting with the Quinella and the.
I'll just quickly stop you there, Mark, before we get any complaints from any Olympians out there. He's still an Olympian. Not a former Olympian, so I know I have been corrected on that myself.
No, good to know too.
But certainly one of our very best 1500 metre runners from New Zealand back in the 80s.
And Tony was great help to me. We trained together in Hamilton, raced together, and he was an enormous help in my career. And it was a joy to be a little bit part of his training and preparation to qualify for the Olympics in Los Angeles, but also to watch him make it right through to the final. Because there's one thing to be an Olympian, but as Tony now is an Olympic finalist, and that's with you forever. And has done a great job promoting athletics generally in New Zealand, but specifically this meeting.
Canadian Jordan Young, the latest in the men's discus circle. He's got a best of 62 and 76. He was second at the Porritt Classic.
And I saw one of the, and I don't know who it was, but there was an athlete did 63.72, which is a terrific performance. So we'll look forward to trying catching up with more of the detail on the men's discus, because again, that's a really strong field.
Some good throwers out there with Matthew Denny, Connor Bell, of course, our own. 1500 metres underway.
Yeah, so we are going to do the best we can to get some names to you. We are a little bit short of a heat sheet for this event.
And there's a lot of them. 17 we saw in the list on the television there.
So that's certainly right from the start. It looks like Hiro Tanamoto from, we're going to call him from Wellington, originally from Japan. Been running in Wellington now for a couple of years, and very dominant on the Wellington scene. On the outside there, Will Anthony, a young up-and-coming runner from Wellington, going really well. On the inside of him, Sam Petty, husband of Angie Petty. And the Christchurch Avon athletes just sitting in behind him there in 4th and 5th.
So Sam Petty in 3rd place, as you said, a husband of Angela Petty, is a 4 minutes 1 miler. He's been returning from injury. It's a really important race for him today. Not that he wants to set the world alight, but he'd love to join that exclusive club of athletes that have broken 4 minutes, and he's getting closer and closer. So for him, athlete 2:30 in 3rd place, this is an important race on the road to recovery. I didn't quite get the first lap, but I think it was about 62 seconds. So it's they're looking at probably just under 3:50 at the moment.
Well, Anthony still leads. Sam Petty now moving forward to second.
So it looks like Daniel Roswell from Christchurch Haven slowly moving through there into third place. Looks like Connor Melton from University of Canterbury, the tall figure there in the maroon of the Canterbury strip. And also on the outside there from Wellington Scottish, Nee McDonald from Wellington Scottish, better known as a representative at the World Mountain Running Champs in 2019, so going well there on the outside. Better known for the longer distances and certainly running up and down hills, but holding his own here in the 1500.
They're about 2 minutes 8 at 2 laps at 800 metres. So again, the pace isn't outstanding, but the tactics in this race are so important. It's brave, the guy at the front, but you do set yourself up, and the 4 or 5 athletes behind have got the advantage of being able to be pulled along by that leader. And there's such a temptation for the likes of Sam Petty and others to make a break too early. But as they approach the bell now, in their mind they'll be thinking, when am I going to make that move?
It looks like Noel McDermott on the outside from Palmerston North in the white, making a strong move as they come through to take the bell. So once again, they're still on that pace for just over 4 minutes, about 4:01 pace as they head through with 400 metres remaining. So we have Nee McDonald from Wellington Scottish. Just behind him from Palmerston North Athletics, it's Noah McDermott, followed by Sam Petty. And the Canterbury athlete there, Connor Melton.
Petty looks like he's going to make his move, but he's tucked in behind into second as well. Again, you've got to time that move. It's so tempting to make it too early, but then regret it. Because once you make that move, there's no coming back, and now he's got to really keep going.
Roswell coming with him?
Very much so.
And a strong move from Roswell as he comes around with 120 remaining.
Daniel Roswell's going to turn first. What's Sam Petty got left in the tank?
Yeah, these two clearing out. And Sam Petty. We're going to leave that one in the hands of the timing officials, but certainly Connor Melton from Canterbury University coming through for third place. Just behind him, the youngster Will Anthony from Olympic Harriers. So a really good run from Will there as well. So just over that 4 minute mark today.
Just over that 4 minute. What a great race it was though, because Petty made the first move, first big move. Roswell looked like he'd been patient. He looked like he'd held back. He made his move, but then Petty came back again. And that was a titanic battle down the straight of two very tired athletes. Both of them ran well tactically, but initially I thought Roswell had done everything right, just held it back and just been patient. But then Petty came again. And at this point, it maybe looked like he was going to make it, but he just got the dip the wrong way for Petty and the right way for Roswell. A really good finish.
Daniel Roswell of Christchurch Haven taking out the men's 1500 metres from Sam Petty of Canterbury University in a titanic battle. Of course, we saw an outstanding 1500 metres where here's Connor Bell. Connor Bell at the Discus is one of our rising stars in New Zealand track and field. And 62.43 on the board over there, which might have been for Connor's previous throw. Just back to that 1500 metres, we saw a classic finish, of course, between Nick Willis, who we'll see in the 800 metres later, and Rory Young from Australia, and very similar finish tonight between the two young Canterbury athletes. Back at the Discus, Jordan Roach of the United States, best of 60 and 47. With that throw there being measured, and we'll keep our eyes on the board. 291, Matthew Denny of Australia, about to step into the circle for his next attempt. Sky Sport next. You're live here at Newtown Park for the 16th edition of the Team Ledger Harcourts Capital Classic. Mark Rosanowski and Reese Buck here, and of course running royalty in Dave Moorcroft, who's ducked out briefly.
I think if we're going to call Dave Moorcroft running royalty, you must be racing royalty.
Nothing of the sort. Is there such a thing, Reece? Is there such a thing? I know I'm very, very much third in the pecking order from an athletic perspective. But certainly been an enthusiast all my life. But with your name still on the honours board here at the Capital Classic, and with Dave Moorcroft holding a 5,000 metre world record for 3 years before the great osei-nketia took it off him, and a two-time Commonwealth gold medalist, and finished 7th in the 1976 Montreal 1500 behind our own John Walker. Yes, there's a big margin back to third. With my athletic career here tonight, but thoroughly enjoying this night. And a lot more to look forward to, particularly with Nick Willis in that 800 metres a little later on. And the field events, the men's high jump at 6:30, featuring, again, the Australians should shine there. Brandon Stark with a best of 2:36, world number 5 last year. Joel Baden's cleared 2:30, also from Australia. Nick Bojic, 2:28. And our own Jaden Williamson, who won Porritt with 2:03 from North Harbour Bays. That'll be an outstanding contest. In the last field event, the women's javelin throw will be 2 because of the outstanding progress made by Tori Peters from the Hamilton City Hawks in the last few weeks across in Australia, breaking the national record twice, 59.25 in Canberra and then 62.04 in Sydney. And in the time that it took him to run a world record 5,000 metres, Dave Moorcroft is back.
You know the problem is as you get older.
No comment, but yes I do. Break-in proceedings on the track, which often happens with the setting up of the hurdles for the 100 metres upcoming. Dave, while we have a lull in proceedings here, your thoughts on what you've seen from Nick Willis at the age of 36, nearly 37, and what he's done in New Zealand here, and obviously running again tonight after running last Sunday, after running also at the Porritt, 800 metres tonight, and then off to the Nationals next weekend in Christchurch, then I believe Brisbane after that, and my untrained eye, he still is in outstanding shape.
I think Nick's possibly one of the most underrated athletes in the world. He's New Zealand record holder for the 1500 metres, 3:29. When you think of what John Walker did and Rod Dixon and various other people, but Nick's silver in Beijing and bronze in Rio at the Olympic Games were phenomenal. Commonwealth Games champion, but still there's the controversy over the Beijing silver, which really should be gold.
Yeah.
A guy called Rashid Ramsey won in inverted commas the race, and we all had huge suspicions, and he was ultimately banned. But Asbel Kiprop from Kenya is also a suspended or pending suspended athlete, but it doesn't factor in performances before a certain date, and his gold medal became a gold medal in Beijing really robs Nick of, I think, the gold medal that he deserves. It's all really difficult and disappointing because he would never have had that wonderful moment that John Walker had of standing on top of a rostrum. But irrespective of whether or not he ultimately gets that medal, and he probably won't, to have an Olympic silver and an Olympic bronze, a career lasting so long at the highest level, to compete, with distinction, tactically brilliant, really deceptive when you watch him run, and I just think he's a joy, and he is more towards the end of his career than he is towards the beginning. But long may he run, and long may he compete with distinction. And if he wants to go to Tokyo, then good on him. And watch out the rest of the opposition, because if you underestimate Nick Willis, you do so at your peril.
And Dave, I believe I heard him say, like they're taking the top 32 in Tokyo, and obviously there's automatic qualifying, but for him it's about gathering the points, and I think he's sitting on the cusp at the moment around sort of 30, 31st, 32nd.
Yes, he is, and he's got to avoid injury. He's got to make sure that the things that are tougher as you get older, in some ways when you get older you want to compete less and just save the body a little bit, be a bit clever in the way you train, not waste miles out on the road that you don't need to do more core conditioning, more awareness of injury avoidance. But he's got to balance that with the need to race reasonably regularly so that he can qualify. But hey, he's got nothing. In a sense, he's got nothing to prove, only to himself. He's already one of the greatest athletes that New Zealand has produced. Certainly one of the greatest middle distance athletes in the world. Very few people win medals at Olympic level between over an 8-year period from 2008 to 2016, he's just a phenomenal athlete who's been a credit to New Zealand sport, not just New Zealand athletics. And I think Tokyo would be a bonus for him, really.
An inspiration to the children who like to come out and see him, obviously, but also too to the rest of us, given his longevity that you've mentioned there, to say, hey, don't jump on the couch too early.
Not at all, no. You're a long time retired. And Nick's got a personal best of 1:45 for 800, which is good, but his 1500 best, if you like, is better. He's not gifted with maybe the outstanding speed, pure speed that some other athletes have. But my God, he's got a great tactical brain. He runs, he times his races so well. And, to break 3 minutes 30 for 1500 is something I'm incredibly jealous of, really, in the nicest possible way.
Brandon Stark being introduced to the crowd there and getting an enthusiastic reception as well, in amongst a cluster of very good Australian high jumpers that we'll witness very shortly. And let's hope that they can replicate what their female counterparts have shown us so far tonight. Down at the discus, we've got Mitchell Cooper from Australia, just awaiting to go back into the cage. Seems to be just a little bit of a lull there at the moment. Not sure what they're waiting on. Connor Bell next to him there. And with the high jump starting soon, an opportunity for us to concentrate a bit on this discus, but we're not getting the opportunity to just at the moment.
There does seem to be a bit of a break. Just reminds me watching the guys warm up for the pole vault. And I'm sure at the back of their mind, or maybe at the front of their mind, is the phenomenon that is happening in men's pole vaulting with a young 20-year-old called Mondo Duplantis, who's born in America but competes for Sweden and has recently broken the world indoor record twice, 6 meters 17, and then he took it to 6 meters 18. So these guys today who are looking at 5 meters plus, the thought that a 20-year-old kid has jumped 6 meters 18, and in some respects athletics is waiting for the kind of next Usain Bolt, the next not just world athletics star but world super sports star that almost transcends their sport. And I think a lot of people probably unfairly are putting a lot of pressure on Duplantis to be that not just famous athlete but famous sports star, because he's a good-looking kid and phenomenally gifted.
Here's the field for the Fuji Xerox women's 100-metre hurdles, and Reece Buckeyes here on Fiona Morrison.
Yeah, look, Fiona Morrison's our hurdling superstar. It's been a few years since she was at her best, fourth at the World University Games back in 2015. Personal best of 13.16, but look, just looking back at some of the information we had coming into the meet, we've got Elizabeth Clay there, Liz Clay from Australia. She is entered for lane 4. It looks as though she may be a scratching, which is unfortunate. She's coming off a 12.94 in Melbourne just a couple of weeks ago. So disappointing not to have her in the field there today. We're not sure what the situation is, but certainly the superstar there to watch from New Zealand, a multiple-time New Zealand champion over the 100 metres and 100-metre hurdles. Fiona Morrison there in lane 5.
She won at the Porritt Classic in a 13.92, and Amy Robertson, number 240, who will go in lane number 3, second in that Porritt Classic to Fiona, the national junior champion from 2018.
We're just seeing the hurdles being changed a little bit, so maybe there was an error in the either the weights. It looks like the weights and the height of those hurdles.
I have known events where they've got it slightly wrong, and it caused absolute chaos, because the stride pattern between each hurdle has to be spot on for the women's 100 hurdles and the men's 110. the men, the 3 strides, there's no other option, and it has to be exactly spot on. And when it isn't, it's really embarrassing, because the athletes clearly can't compensate for either the hurdles being at the wrong height or the wrong distance between each hurdle.
So we're just making our way looking down those hurdles. It looks as though lane 2 there, Amon Nell from Hastings Club. Looks as though as the 17-year-old, she's going to be competing at a slightly different height there in the 100 hurdles for these women.
Perhaps all those hurdles were at that height at one stage there by the looks of the adjustments here. So 213 Amon Nell, 17-year-old with the smaller hurdles. Amy Robertson next door to her, number 240. Shame to see Elizabeth Clay not here tonight, but Fiona Morrison next door to her, 6-time New Zealand champion in 208 lane 5. Lane 6 for Henawai Knowles, and Zoe Taylor in lane number 7, number 263. Women's 100 metre hurdles here at the Capital Classic, sponsored by Team Ledger Harcourts. The 16th running of the Capital Classic in an Olympic year, and between the Sir Graham Douglas meet that we had in Auckland last week and the national championships that take place in Christchurch, Reese, from next Friday.
Yeah, certainly, and those that are enjoying the coverage at home, courtesy of Sky Sport Next, they will be able to also catch the coverage of the Jenny and Holmes National Track and Field Championships next week. So I'm not going to get myself down to Christchurch, unfortunately, this year, but brilliant being able to sit myself down on the couch in front of the TV and pull up some YouTube and watch it live on Sky Sport Next.
There's still something wonderful about being a national champion. The preoccupation today for a lot of people is trying to qualify for the Olympic Games and getting qualifications in, but forever it lives with you if you become a national champion.
Just awaiting start point for the 100 metre hurdles. Portia Bing has joined us here on Sky Sport Next, and Portia, we'll chat to you about your exploits so far this evening, but the 100 metre hurdles going to the blocks with eyes on Fiona Morrison and Amy Robertson. Fiona Morrison, number 208 in lane 5, has begun reasonably well. So is Amy Robertson coming through on the inside, and they draw clear. Fiona Morrison smooth though and will come through comfortably. If she doesn't strike the last, she's over it comfortably, and Amy Robertson home in second spot. Henawai Knowles in third. Portia Bing, welcome to the coverage. Congratulations on your efforts tonight so far, with a 56.55 meeting record in the 400 metre hurdles, where you had one competitor but effectively you're running against the clock tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me in this lovely studio, nice and sheltered from the wind in here.
It is.
I see there's chocolates on the table and grapes going.
Help yourself, are you allowed?
Oh, I think considering how I ran today, it might be like one or two, right?
Yeah, I think for every record you get a dip in the lolly jar.
Oh, it's a great, I feel like it's a great game to go.
You backed up in the 400 metre flat, meeting record there of 53 and 64. So when you came into tonight, is obviously you're hoping for victory, but were they about the times you were looking for?
Yeah, definitely. So with the 4 hurdles, I guess the biggest question is a lot of people think, why would I run 4 hurdles? When there's not a big field, it wasn't a points meet. So the only thing that I could really benefit from this meet was literally getting an automatic qualifier. But for me, I've made so many changes this season. It was about getting out there and starting to implement them. And also having a good trial run, because the way that our nationals is I'm not going to have the Australian girls over here racing. I do have some good competition in New Zealand, but maybe just not the same intensity as I have in Australia. So it's about me coming out and being able to really focus on what I'm trying to do and execute it alone, rather than relying on other people to pull me through.
Yeah, and you were saying after Sir Graham Douglas event on last weekend about how the changes you've made since the World Championships over the hurdles. And is that something that is a continual progression, like you'll continue to make changes and still work on that? Or is it just building some confidence now that you've made those changes?
It's a matter of implementing the changes and keeping those changes, right? So there's a tendency to go out there, especially my coach is going to kill me, but when my coach isn't here, there's a tendency to want to fall back into the old habits, like, oh, the coach isn't watching, they won't see. Although this is live stream, so the coach is always watching. But yeah, there's a tendency to want to go back into old habits, and especially when you're trying to chase a qualifier. But so for me, every time I come out and race now, it was about implementing the new technique, but also realising that in a 4 hurdles, because we're running a full circle, the conditions are always different. So it's about making 10 different decisions, and it's just being able to make those decisions quickly and making smart decisions. So it's also a little bit about that rather than just trying to set one plan. It's about kind of being able to adapt to the conditions with the, I guess, new technique that you have on hand.
Connor Bell there at the Discus, just releasing well beyond 60 metres again as he continues his series of throws. We've got Portia Bing chatting with us, though, at the commentary position here at the Capital Classic. Portia, the conditions in Auckland certainly seemed very testing. You must have been very pleased coming through with a pretty good time given those conditions.
In Auckland?
Yes, in Auckland.
Yes, in Auckland. Yeah, I mean, I was pretty happy with Auckland. I mean, the week before I think I had my first big actual hurdle barrier in Canberra the week before, where I didn't actually finish a race, and for me that was such a big deal. Technically I made a few mistakes, which meant that when I went to accelerate off the 8th hurdle, it just wouldn't work. It was niggly. I hadn't really injured anything, but I was in a position that it was quite painful, so I had to pull out. And I think going into Auckland, it was a confidence booster to, 1, finish the race, and then 2, be able to do that in those conditions. And it's always nice to run a good time in bad conditions, because then you think, well, hey, if I get good conditions, what could happen? Good conditions, good competition. So yeah, it was a big confidence booster, and it was actually a good confidence booster for today, because all week we've been talking about this 60k headwinds that's going to be down here, and I got here and it's pretty bloody beautiful.
Yeah, I'm not sure we ever get 60k headwinds down here in Wellington. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, that's what we talk about in Auckland, you know. It's like, oh, every time I go to Wellington, it's so windy.
So kind of moving on to the next couple of weeks, we've got this, the New Zealand Track and Field Champs next weekend. Are we going to see you doubling up there, or are you going to just focus on the one event?
I think I'll be doing the one event. I'll be doing the 4 hurdles as my priority, because I think the way that I'm sitting now, I'm sitting either in 32 or 33rd for my world rank, and I need to be well within the top 32 to secure myself a space to the Olympics. So the most points that I can get is from the New Zealand Championship, so I'll be focusing on that, but that's only on the Friday, so there's still 2 days of competition. You never know. You might see me in 800, you might see me in a steeplechase, might get out there, throw a javelin. Anything could go.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. And look, Australian Championships a couple of weeks after that. Are you planning on, is that as part of the plan? Is that another opportunity for you to gather some more points for qualification?
Yeah, so I can't get any points from another nation's national championship, so I can't personally get bonus points. I can just get performance points. Australian Nationals will be a really great opportunity for me to try and get an automatic qualifier, and the competition there is so tight. I mean, there's about 4 of us girls who all run very, very similar times, so it's always a really great competition, and Sydney's a great track to run on.
Men's high jump there is at 192, and that's going to crank up significantly, particularly with the Australian competitors that we have that are capable of jumping 230 and potentially beyond tonight.
Yeah, and I was just looking at the entries for the men's high jump. Unfortunately, we don't have the presence of young Hamish Kerr, the top New Zealand high jumper at the moment, competing tonight, but certainly with the Australians here, we should see some good jumping. But certainly, before we let you go, Portia, once the kind of Southern Hemisphere season finishes up, kind of getting towards the end of March, do you have a plan set for the lead-in? Kind of we're all expecting that you're going to qualify. We know you're going to get there for Tokyo. So do you have a plan set for how you're going to build up into Tokyo, or do you wait until you secure that spot and then you go from there?
Yeah, I guess you always follow the sun. Try to have summer all year round. That's always the aim. So if I haven't got an automatic qualifier, we'll be heading either into Asia or up into Europe. I think from the perspective that my coach and I are at the moment, we focus on getting this season and see where I'm ranked. Once you can see where you're ranked at the end of the domestic season, we'll probably reassess from there, and then we'll know, do I need to chase a lot of competitions, or do I just need one more, or am I actually safe in the place I'm sitting? So it'll all depend where my world rank sits after the Australian Nationals.
So, and certainly with the current situation in Asia at the moment, we might be seeing you competing in Europe, I think, rather than later in the Asian season. But look, all the best. Congratulations on 2 meet records here at the Capital Classic this evening. We were just talking about a little earlier, there's a $4,000 prize pool for the record bonuses, and everyone that gets a record here tonight is going to get a portion of that prize pool. We were pretty optimistic that you might get 2 dips in that prize pool for the 2 records here tonight, which will, I guess, be nice to head home with.
Yeah, definitely. It's always nice to double dip. Don't know how everyone else feels about double dippers, but I'm pretty happy about it.
You deserve it.
So once again, congratulations, some great performances tonight. We look forward to watching you next week in the National Championships on the live stream there, and certainly all the best for the coming season as you build up into Tokyo.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Portia. Portia Bing, successful twice tonight in meeting records, 400 metre hurdles, 400 metres flat. Number 139, Mitchell Cooper from Australia with his latest throw down there at the Discus Circle, which is drawing to a conclusion. Saw a 63.80 there, which may have belonged to Matthew Denny in a recent throw. And Connor Bell will be going in shortly. Number 238 there is the American athlete Jordan Roach about to go in.
So we almost got attacked here in the live stream commentary booth by a young little Wallace, escaped from Sierra. So we do know they're in the stadium, and we will be keeping an eye out for some action later with Nick Willis in the Elite Men's 800 kicking off at 7:30.
Jordan Roach with his latest throw, and back at the high jump, 192 cleared by Josh Inger of North Harbour Bays. That competition's really going to heat up. We've got 30 to 40 centimetres of potential movement there tonight. 58.33, that latest throw from Jordan Roach.
Yeah, I think we've been talking about it all evening. This is one of the best discus fields we've seen in New Zealand in a long time. We've got the high jump underway with one of the best high jump fields we've seen on New Zealand soil, and certainly at Newtown Park in a number of years. We've already had the best women's high jump field competing and performance-wise finishing up on New Zealand soil, possibly ever, but certainly in the last 20-odd years. So, and then obviously course records, championship records there in the hammer throw, the 400-metre hurdles, the flat 400 for Portia Bing. What a brilliant night we've had so far. How many more records can we get?
It's been a terrific night, hasn't it? It's, you know, I think we did expect meeting records to go, but I don't think we necessarily expected national all-comers and Oceania records to go. And you know, it's been a joy to watch, and there's still much more to come, because obviously we're looking forward to Nick running the 800 metres. But you know, Portia's had a great evening, 2 victories. It's been terrific. The men's discus is still going ahead. You know, I think it really bodes well for New Zealand athletics and their preparation for Tokyo, and the opportunity for as many as possible to achieve those, you know, really quite hard Olympic qualifying standards.
So no throw in that previous one from the discus. Prior to that, though, Alexander Parkinson getting out to 60 and 86, and now Connor Bell stepping into the circle. We'll see what he can produce here late in the competition. Here he is, Connor Bally's been in outstanding form. Third best throw of all time in New Zealand recently. And again, just difficult to pick up the marking side on as to what that might be, but keep an eye on the board and see what Mitchell has done with his latest throw as that competition draws to a close. Men's pole vault also underway, and the women's javelin, we'll be looking forward to this too, Reese Buck. We've been talking about Tori Peters and the outstanding progress that she's made in the last few weeks, and she's broken the national record twice in Australia, Canberra and Sydney, and looking to continue that spiral upwards.
Yeah, once again, some good competition coming from the likes of Canada and Japan. Athletes flying in to compete against New Zealand's best athletes. So I think, as we've already seen, you get some competition, you get some good battles going on there, and hopefully the athletes rise to the occasion and we might come out with some more personal bests, some qualifiers. Fingers crossed it's a positive outcome at the end.
And I think what's nice about this meeting, it seems like the international competition is just at the right level for the level that the New Zealanders are at. So, you know, for Tori Peters in the women's javelin, Ashley Pryke from Canada is pretty much the same sort of standard. And that's important. You don't really want an athlete who's 10 metres ahead of you because whilst it's impressive to watch, you're not close enough to the standard of that athlete for it to drag the best out of you. But I think the women's javelin tonight, with essentially 3 nations represented, each of them being relatively close to the other, they could, you know, push beyond 57 metres, get towards 60 metres, which would be excellent.
Yeah, and I was talking with Ashley last night at the athletes dinner, and I think our prediction is this woman's meet record for the javelin. It's set currently at 46.77. From the looks of the field we've got, I don't think there's anyone that's even going to throw that low.
No.
So we're going to have a whole field of female javelin throwers that are going to throw over that record. Look, how much they break it by, it's up to them, but it's going to be one of our biggest records tonight.
There's a significant discus throw being measured at the moment. Matthew Denny put it out there. It looked very impressive from the release, and it's going on the board now at over 65 metres, 65 and 47, which is only just under the Olympic qualifying guaranteed mark of 66 metres. Jaden Williamson there at the high jump from North Harbour Bays. We're looking forward to the Australians kicking into action there, particularly Brandon Stark, but also Joel Baden and Nick Bojic as well, all capable of 230 plus. I haven't got his stats on Matthew Denny here just at the moment in terms of his personal bests, but an extraordinary throw there. The previous meet record, we talked about this man earlier, Shaker Solar, and what he's done with the throwing academy, not far from where I live these days actually, and obviously his name's going to be erased from the record books today. I don't think Shaker will be too concerned about that. That was back in 2005, but an outstanding throw, 65 and 47 from Matthew Denny of Australia. And the Olympic Games automatic qualifier mark of 66 metres, he's only a half a metre short of that.
Okay, we have the medals for the men's 1500 metres.
Yeah, so for Matthew Denny there, we've got some stats coming up for you now. 65.43 is his personal best. He's the Australian junior record setter back in 2015 with a distance of 62.58. So not a big jump since then, but he's already thrown 64 metres at Sydney just a couple of weeks ago, or in fact just earlier this month.
Well, now he's stepped that up, and did you say 65.43? So he's put 4 centimetres on that tonight. Personal best. North Harbour Bays are dominating the small field in the men's pole vault. Get a look at them shortly. Daniel Roswell receiving his medal in a really stirring finish of the 1500 metres over Sam Petty. He's number 168. Josh Inger in North Harbour Bays. looking at another attempt at 197.
Just confirmation there on that time for the men's 1500. The winning time there from Daniel Roswell, 3 minutes 55. Very close finish. Sam Petty just 0.05 of a second behind him in 3:55.91. Connor Melton there in third from University of Canterbury, 3:58.8.
Mitchell Cooper from Australia with his latest throw. Best of 63 and 98 in his career, but 60.87 is best this season. And these discus throwers, I think, really thriving on what they've just seen in the last few minutes here, and a chance for them to respond.
And we see Holly Robinson there, and just warming up for the women's javelin. One of our leading Paralympic athletes.
At the pole vault, Joshua Ball, the only non-North Harbour Bays athlete on the runway. And pulling out before the plant. And a massive discus throw here too, I think. And so excited. Jordan Roach there of the United States, was he with his throw, that he appeared to trip on the cage as he came out, but he was certainly pleased with the release. And they're out there measuring it now. It's a little difficult to tell from our vantage point as to where it might be at, but he seemed very excited upon the release and the landing. And the discus throwers seem to have been saving their best till late in the competition here. Jordan Roach have down best of a 60 and 47, and he's just fallen short of that, but 60.18, so Jordan excited with his throw there, not too far off his personal best. Jaden Williamson of North Harbour Bays at the high jump, and Alexander Parkinson is about to go on the discus. Failed attempt there, 2 metres and 2. The bar at there for Jaden Williamson. Alexander Parkinson stepping out of the discus circle after his latest throw. Joshua Bell, he made the plant this time, but never confident of achieving the height over there at the pole vault. Just can't spot a height board for that at the moment. Well, that's it there. 5:17 it seems to be at. Getting confirmation there that Nicholas Southgate's wearing the yellow, and that's who we've been looking at chasing 5:17. Latest attempt there of Jaden Williamson, unsuccessful, 2 metres and 2. He won the Harcourt Classic with 2 metres and 3.
And just looking at the feather flags, and it looks like the wind it's not actually getting less, it's swirling possibly more. So this is going to be tough for the men's 200 metres. Because I think they'll spend the majority of the race running into the wind. But I think it might help the men's discus. I think there's the aerodynamic nature of the discus and the flight of the discus. If they get it right and the wind's coming in from the right quarter, then it can assist the flight of the disc and make it go that little bit further.
James Stein clearing this time. 5 metres and 17. Oh, Nicholas Southgate. Sorry there, Reece. I was following your finger. Nicholas Southgate home over 5.17 from North Harbour Bays. North Harbour Bays dominating the small field in the pole vault. Connor Bell's just had his last throw and he's going to finish second. And Matthew Denny about to step up and see what he can do after his phenomenal effort in the previous.
So we do have the first heat of women's 200 metres down at their marks. We will hopefully cross over to that series soon.
Matt Denny with his free throw, if you like, pressure off. And he is victorious in the men's discus.
And there we go. So in the front there, Christy Solomon. We've already seen her competing today, and just inside her, Ruby Barton from Wellington Harriers. But it's Christy Solomon with a very strong run, the Frankton athlete. A youngster coming through, just 17 years old. A little bit of a stumble there. And Maya Wilkinson from Wellington Harriers. 3 under 18 runners all there. Looks like they're all backing up from events earlier this evening. All going well. I think they're all in the 800. So not a bad double up here at the Capital Classics. That's heat 1 of the women's 200 metres.
Heat 2 will see Rosie Elliott alongside Amy Robertson, Angeline Blackburn, number of runners that we've seen tonight. Bar's gone to 2:12 at the high jump.
And I think there, as we saw in that first heat of the women's 200, there a number of youngsters from the Wellington Harriers club carrying on that tradition of excellent junior performances and certainly team performances coming out of Wellington Harriers. The moment with the girls, certainly coming through Wellington East Girls College. Support there from Chris here and Anne here that have been providing the coaching and support. And but yeah, great to see. Still coming out on the track, a whole bunch of them, and we'll see them at New Zealand secondary schools later in the year as well.
One thing you really hope is that competing in these events inspires these youngsters to stay in athletics, because it's tough in the transitional years from being a national level junior athlete to making it into the senior team in international events and in World Olympics, Commonwealth Championships. And you hope that these sort of competitions give the motivation to youngsters with talent just to stick at it, stay committed and work hard through the difficult years, come out at the other end of it and get to the major championships.
So about to go to the blocks in the second heat of the women's 200. Julia Burnham in lane 2, Angeline Blackburn in lane 3, lane 4 for Rosie Elliott, Jenna Maples in lane number 5, Taylor Brunner lane 6. Got a 2:12 clearance at the high jump. Amy Robertson's out in lane 7 and Emma Douglas the outside lane 8.
So Brandon Stark is over 2:12 in the team program. I believe he might be the only one there. It's got a bit cooler from the mid, the woman there.
So on a quick double up here from Amy Robinson, not long ago running that 100 metre hurdles. So a strong run just inside her coming from Taylor Brunner from Athletics Wanganui. And in the middle there, number 3 or 146, Rosie Elliott from Hill City.
And she's burst to the front here, Rosie Elliott, and with no Zoe Hobbs to chase, she'll be glad of victory here. Home in second, Taylor Brunner. And Angeline Blackburn in for third from Australia, who lined up against Portia Bing earlier in the 400 metres.
Another leading record. It's now getting over at the 5 minutes 32.
Men's discus provisional result here, and looking through for Matthew Denny, that's 65.47 with his fifth throw. An outstanding effort from him, and looking to Connor Bell, 62 metres and 43, good enough for Connor to finish second. Women's javelin we've been looking forward to, and that is also underway. And at the pole vault, I did see James Stein miss at 5.17. Nicholas Southgate, I believe, is going to 5.32. Erin Guy victorious in the women's triple jump today, beating Mariko Morimoto of Japan, who was successful at the weekend.
And just a note on that medal presentation, it's the first year that Capital Classic has presented medals for the podium winners. So a great initiative this year. Great support from Team Legia Harcourts that made that possible, with a little bit of extra money going into making some medals available. So certainly the athletes got something to take home other than a little bit of cash and a bunch of flowers. So, and as we watch that javelin flying out there, just a confirmation as well. So the women's hammer throw, we had 5 under the previous meet record, and in the men's shot put, we also had 5 under the previous meet record. So Ryan Ballanti there setting a new meet record, 19.85 metres in the men's shot put, and Julia Ratcliffe there with a 70.53 in the women's hammer throw.
So that'll be a new personal best for Ryan Ballanti, 1985. He was 1971. In Auckland, 1964 Porritt Classic. He's really headed in the right direction.
It's only a matter of time, isn't it, before he does 20 metres. The high jump at 2 metres 17.
And that's Brandon Stark.
And Stark's with a personal best of 2:36, so should be relatively comfortable at this height.
Commonwealth Games champion 2018 on the Gold Coast. 2 metre 36 personal best, as Dave Moorcroft said there, so plenty of room to move for Brandon Stark.
And the winner, in Christchurch, for this time of 14.69 metres, Fiona Morrison,
100 metre hurdles women medal presentation taking place here, and a continued dominance there for Fiona Morrison from Christchurch after winning the Porritt Classic. Over on the pole vault mat, Nick Southgate just running through on the 5.32. Next best 5.47. And victorious in the Potts Classic with 5.40 at the end of last month, and finished second with 5.17 at the weekend. And the Sir Graham Douglas, he has cleared that today.
It looks like we have our high jump now moving up to 2 metres 22.
And the javelin in the background there, Ori Uchiro of Japan with a best of 59.16. As mentioned, we're looking forward to seeing Tori Peters, who has twice broken the national record recently and extended it to 62.04 in Sydney. And the Olympic Games automatic qualifying is 64 metres, and at the rate of the improvement that Tori is making, it may be within her capabilities.
And we see there on screen Ashley Pryke from Canada. Just waiting for her opportunity to have her next throw.
She's thrown 57.47 this season. She didn't have to break 50 to win the Porritt Classic, 49 and 28. She was sitting at our table last night. Reece, at the dinner, she ate less than us, I think, to be fair.
What are you saying?
Well, I can only speak for myself.
Are you suggesting that I was making the most of a free buffet?
Oh, no, I was.
So there we go, Ashley Pryke from Canada. Releasing with a pretty good throw. Hard to see from here. Looks as though it's just inside the Javelin sector.
It looks comfortably beyond the 50 metres if I'm reading these lines right.
And we do have 3 heats of the men's 200 just coming up in a few minutes. And you can see in the background of that women's javelin throw, we do see some of the women's 1500 metre runners also warming up down the back straight. And I did spot Angie Petty doing a quick stride out. So it does look as though she's doubling up after her 800 metre run earlier this evening. So 2:05 earlier. Be interesting to see what she'll be able to do backing up. I imagine she's probably going to do the double next week at the National Championships. So good opportunity, a couple of hours, maybe 2 hours apart, to be able to back up 800, 1500 tonight.
Yeah, Angie's used to doing doubles, and you rightly said she's out there doing strides, so she's definitely going to run the 1500 metres. Interesting to see whether she runs a more tactical race or whether she's just happy to blast it from the front. Her personal best is certainly faster than the rest of the field, so she should be able to control it whichever way she fancies, notwithstanding the fact she's already run the 800 metres. I'm going to be fascinated by Tori Peters in this javelin, because kind of when you're hot, you've really got to go for it, and the progression she's made to get to 62 metres means that she must have more than at the back of her mind that she could crack the 64 metres and cement her place at the Olympic Games. So wouldn't it be fantastic if she did it tonight?
Stephanie Rathol on the runway. Best of 55 and 26 through 55.07 and 54.07 in Canberra recently. Brandon Stark sitting down at the high jump, failed attempt at 2:22, reflecting upon that, and the only competitor left. So tracksuit off quickly. He's
rattling through these jumps. It's kind of weird for him, because he sat out for half an hour, 3/4 of an hour or more watching the other competitors until they'd kind of been removed from the competition, and then he's just in doing his own thing at the moment. 2:22 should be well within his range.
Ori Yushiro of Japan, her latest attempt with the javelin. Like a good release and flight, and drawing some polite applause too up and to our right, where I did see a contingent of Japanese earlier. Here's Brandon Stark, 2:22, attempt 2, and comfortably clear, and continuing some fine high jumping from our Australian friends tonight. Nicola Southgate continuing, and another attempt here at 5:32. Making it to the bar, crashing through, and may be done for the night. Ashley Pryke back on the runway. Looks like she's throwing consistently from the couple we've seen so far. It's the white flag.
So it looks like Tyrone Trago and Liam Montgomery, two athletes in Heat 3, or Heat 1, I guess. Looks like also on the inside we might have Nicholas Schwartz from Nelson Athletics.
Tyrone Trago, Upper Hutt athlete home.
So it's good to see some of these smaller clubs, smaller local clubs, getting their athletes out. But I must admit, I've seen more of the Mana Athletic Club athletes out today than I think most other clubs, which is good to see. Maybe keep an eye out at the National Championships next week for a bit of competition coming from those Mana athletes. Another good throw there from Holly Robinson. Holly, they're not happy with that throw. We'll wait for the measurement, but certainly well below her best from the looks of it.
Brendan Stark awaiting an attempt at 2:26 that the bar has been raised to. Stephanie Rathor with her latest throw here with the javelin. Struggling to pick up where they've got the measurement board for the javelin. Underway with the next heat of the 200 metres here, Reece.
So I'm keeping an eye on lane 5 there, Liam Webb. It's coming through well, but just inside him, Daniel Parks from Australia with a strong run. Liam Webb on the outside, on the inside, Elliot Nye. Blanket finish there for second place, but Daniel Parks from Australia winning there in heat 2 of the men's 200.
And Dave Moorcroft and I just coming to the disappointing conclusion that Tori Peters is not out there at the Javelin.
Yeah, having bigged her up to potentially get the A qualifying, it'd be kind of difficult because she doesn't appear to be throwing.
No, and she hadn't been scratched from the official program, so hopefully all is okay there. But we were expecting to see her tonight and see if she could continue the meteoric progress that she'd been making, but unfortunately she's not out there.
Having thrown 62 metres recently and improved dramatically, I guess if there's, I don't know the reason she's not competing tonight, but with Nationals next week, you know, it's always best to be cautious, particularly if she's got a slight niggle. So it's unfortunate, but understandable with Nationals coming up, and the progression she's made is has been really encouraging as she edges closer and closer to getting that Olympic A qualifying.
It's a real balancing act for the athletes this year, and particularly with the Nationals, as you say, next week with the Sir Graham Douglas the prior week. But because there are points on offer here as a Permit D meeting, you know, there might be a few athletes here tonight who normally wouldn't back up from last week with the Nationals next week, but there's points on offer if they really want to be serious about making their way to Tokyo.
Yeah, I must admit, it's a system that's that I'm not entirely understand, because the old method of, if you had a nation could send 3 athletes as long as they all had the A qualifying, or you could send 1 athlete with a B. But now with this point system, which seems to make sense because it motivates people to compete regularly and it rewards people for doing well in competition rather than necessarily chasing times and distances. But we'll learn a lot this year to see whether it's worked or not, because certainly athletes have to balance peaking at a major championships with the requirement to qualify and therefore compete regularly.
Third heat of the 200 metres coming up here, Reece, who we got lined up here. Hamish Gill will be worth looking at in lane number 5. Cody Wilson outside him 2 and 6, and Will Roberts in lane number 3. Should be a good contest. Hamish Gill's been in very good form. Personal best 2093 at the Auckland Championships back earlier this month, and beat Edward osei-nketia in the Potts Classic over the 100 metres.
So early on, it does look like Hamish Gill running well. On the inside, Zach Topping from Palmerston North in the white also going well on the outside. Another 2.82 there, Cody Wilson, but it's Hamish Gill with a comfortable win in this third heat of the men's 200 metres. On the outside him, Cody Wilson, another one of those youngsters from Mana Athletics, and Tommy Tapuni from North Harbour Bay is coming through, it looks like, for a close 3rd place.
Like close to 21 seconds there too, Dave.
I think it may be just outside 21 seconds, but that was a really good run by Gill. I don't think the wind is of any advantage at all tonight in the 200. I think the swirling nature of the wind means that it was potentially against them round the bend and down the straight. So I think Gill ran really well there. He was close to 21 seconds. Whether he got sub 21, I don't know, but he looked very strong, very powerful, and held his form extremely well right through the finish.
He's in really good shape at the moment, sub 21 shape, even if he hasn't nailed that tonight. He has already this month. Attempt at 2:26 coming up for Australian high jumper here, Brendan Stark. Oh, and he attacked it well, and he's knocked the bar, but it stayed. 2:26 cleared.
Again, a good clearance. It's getting a bit cold now. The wind is blustering. He's been out on his own for a long time. Maybe used to that. So that's part of what you've got to, the conditions that you have to manage and control. But 2:26 is edging towards his best of 2:36. I'd just be interested to know whether he's just going to go straight for a big one or just move up in the increments that normally happen at the end of each successful clearance. There's an element tonight of him, obviously he's won the competition, of him training, if you like, of doing the things that he feels is best for him as he prepares for the Olympic Games in Tokyo.
And there's the field for the Roger Robinson Scholarship, 1,500 metres for the women, in a massive field here, Reece Buck.
Yeah, big field. So 22 athletes, I think, looks like we've got on the track. A number of these backing up from the 800 metres earlier. We were talking just a few minutes ago, Angela Petty, certainly we saw win the 800, but her training partner, Ariana Harper, she's backing up. It looks like Esther Kosniak. We see Ellen Schaaf there is going to be lining up in lane 1. She's based over in Australia at the moment, but has been running really well on the Australian scene. And look to go in with that. Catherine Camp is going to give Angela Petty a run for her money there. Rebecca Green, an athlete that we saw head off to the States, one of our top juniors just a few years ago, and she's back on New Zealand soil and starting to run quite well. Ninky Mulholland, Jean Kosniak, Cara McDermott. There's a whole bunch of these athletes, range in ages, all the way from, I think what we're seeing here, 16 years old all the way to 30 at Ellen Schaaf. So, yeah, some good battles going on here. I think some personal battles between a few of these girls as well.
That almost looked like they'd started, didn't it? But they were doing a mass final stride. Which shows the community of distance running, working well together. 27 is a large field, but it will. I think the women would have preferred it to be 27. Let's just go for it rather than break up the numbers, because it will spread out as the race unfolds. Angela is the meeting record holder, Angela Petty, with 4 minutes 20. She's got a She's well capable, got a best of 4 minutes 7. I don't think she'll be going for that this evening. She might wish to edge under her meeting record just so she can get a share of the ever-decreasing $4,000 that's being shared by a large number of athletes tonight. But I think it's been a really good initiative by the Harcourts and Ledgers to introduce that incentive, because certainly tonight we've seen some excellent performances and many national meeting records.
I think we'd expect the 4:20.75 to be broken tonight, wouldn't we, given that Catherine Kemp won the Porritt Classic in a 4:15 and change, with Angie Petty closing off on her. So bit of leeway there. Very still now, as you say. That is getting a little bit cooler, but it seems about the stillest we've had in the last half an hour anyway.
Yeah, it's not bad. It depends how Angela's recovered from the aid as we wait for the start now.
And as we see them lined up there, certainly 1:48, second in the line there, Brielle Urbasha from Australia. She'll be one to watch. She's run low 4:20s. Ryoko Hirano from Japan, 4:19 personal best as well. She's aiming for as close, I think we were talking with Angela last night, so Ryoko's probably aiming for about 4:22 to 4:24. So I think that's the pace they're going to go out on. We'll see who wants to lead it out. Looks like Catherine Kemp in the green New Balance strip is going to do the work early on.
Catherine's gone off at a more than honest pace, and even to run under 4:20, that you could do with the first lap not being too slow. There's a lot of jostling there, as we can see. That's the consequence of 27 athletes. It's out on the road, this wouldn't be a problem, but on the track, it's real congestion.
So it looks like Ariana Harper might be setting the pace here for her training partner, but it's Ariana Harper from Wellington now with Canterbury. Catherine Kemp, followed by Rebecca Green. Cara McDermott, better known as a cross-country runner, but certainly coming through and running well, and Angie Petty just in behind her in the orange. Those five starting to break away now as they come around towards the end of the first lap.
And we're looking for sub 70 seconds on the first lap. And it's well under that. It's 66, so that's okay. Angela's patient in 5th place. Having already run the 800, there'll be tired legs there. But she wouldn't want that gap to develop too much. At the moment that she can't afford to let that gap develop, because there are athletes in front of her with fresh legs.
Rebecca Green's been running very well. She set a personal best for the 5,000 metres last Sunday in Auckland with a 16:23. Got a best of 4:22.09 for the distance, and sitting in 3rd there early, and Angie just dropping off that leading group of 4. Brandon Stark missing their first attempt at 2:30.
So Ariana Harper looking to be enjoying this pace-making job out the front. She's stretching away a little bit from Catherine Kemp. They're certainly keeping the pace honest in this first 2 laps. So they were aiming for about 2:15 through the 800. They're going to be pretty close to that. Ariana Harper we can see going through about now, so spot on that 2:15. She's probably done the job they wanted, but with a little bit of swirling wind out there, it may just be a little bit too much tonight. Those leading 3 runners still sticking together though.
Yeah, and this is tough now because they're out on their own. Catherine Kemp did take the race on, then was tucked in comfortably in 2nd place, but it looks now she's got to do the work. Number 131, Catherine Kemp.
So the 2 cross-country specialists tucking in behind the 800-metre specialist of Catherine Kemp.
And the wily old cross-country runners won't want to do too much of the work. They'll be happy for Catherine to take the bulk of the work, take the bulk of the consequence of the wind, and just tuck in. And the athletes in 2nd and 3rd, going through their mind is, when am I going to make my break? I can't make it too early because then I'll be exposed. But equally, I can't wait too long because Catherine has got probably the faster finish. But with a lap to go, a lot is going to happen on this final 400 metres.
So just keeping an eye there on the athlete in 5th position, Ryoko Hirano from Japan. She's actually probably not far off her ideal pace at the moment. A personal best there of 4:19. She was aiming for around 4:22 to 4:24 today. So we'll see how well she can hold on. She's coming a little bit closer to Angie Smith with 300 metres remaining.
Rebecca Green is launching her claim down the back and has taken on Catherine Kemp here. And Rebecca Green putting it to Kemp to see what she's got left.
And she might have done Kemp a favour because it allows Kemp to get back on her shoulder. And Green has really made a hard effort, but not a decisive one yet. And you can see Camp gathering to make one more effort coming off the bend.
And Dave, just off camera there, we can see Angie Petty's just made a move around into third place, going past Cara McDermott.
Finishing strongly is Angie Petty as they come into the straight. Catherine Camp clear. Rebecca Green starting to tie up. Angie Petty's going to pick up her for second. Catherine Camp will win, as she did the Porrick Classic, and as she did in the Porrick Classic too. Angie Petty closing off for a quick second, about 4:22 and change.
Yeah, so just outside that meeting record, but pretty good performance, considering they went out pretty quick in that first lap. Otherwise, yeah, good solid run home.
It was a good run, a really good run by Catherine Camp, because she, tactically, I think she did well. She was in the lead, she was slightly exposed. Rebecca Green went past her and she tucked in on Rebecca Green's shoulder and then kicked decisively. And Angela woke up on that last lap, didn't she? She realised that she could reel them in because she's got great strength and she's had a good night's work. She won the women's 800 and now has finished second in the women's 15. But that was a really good run by Catherine Camp.
Brandon Stark has pushed the bar to 2.30 metres at the high jump, and just behind them the javelin. Continuing to round out our field events.
And we believe it's Brandon Stark's final attempt at 2:30. So he already has, not surprisingly, won the competition and got the meeting record. But we believe this is will be his final attempt at 2:30.
Certainly been athletes, Australian athletes to the fore tonight, obviously at the high jump with the women's high jump, and now Brandon completing his over at the discus as well. And they've got some serious competition obviously coming up over there too over the next few weeks as we have our nationals, and there's some state nationals over there too.
Yeah, and we see Nick Willis just on screen there in the black and white Adidas strip. They're getting ready to get underway in that men's 800 in just a few minutes.
How's the field looking for the elite?
Look, it's actually a pretty solid field. We, I think we're certainly going to be mostly focusing, I guess, on Nick Willis. Nick Willis should be at the front. Be interesting to see how fast he can run. He's coming off a couple of indoor races. But certainly there's some guys behind him that will be looking for some pretty solid times. Michael Dawson there from Wesley. Josh Leger, as we were saying before, the son of our naming rights sponsors for the Team Leger Capital Classic. Mikhail Starzinski is running really, really well at the moment. Takuto Hanamura from Japan. They're all going to be in a bit of a bunch, I think, behind Nick. There's a few of them I think they're going to be hoping they get dragged along maybe for a sub 150 tonight.
Yeah, there's always a real danger of assuming that a guy like Nick Willis is going to have it his own way and win it easily. It's never quite that easy. And this isn't Nick's strongest event. Clearly, if this was a 1500, you'd expect him to walk it. But he's a really good 800-metre runner. But you know, as with any race, when it's your second favourite event, you don't necessarily go into it with complete confidence.
Last year he was beaten by Sam Tanner here. Sam, of course, on the rise and now in the US. Yeah,
and before we get called out for not picking the favourite, certainly Harry May from Australia there, as we see the start list pop up there on the screen. Harry May's got a personal best of 1:48, set that in Sydney just last week. So I think if Nick can be running 1:48 today, he's probably going to be coming out of this pretty happy. If he can come away with the win and a little bit of cash in his pocket too, I think it's going to make it an even better day.
Applause for Brandon Stark there with his final attempt there was 2.30 metres, unsuccessful but comfortable winner of the men's high jump. And young James Harding running extremely well too.
First at Porrick Classic at 151 just a couple of weeks ago, so certainly in really, really good form, running big personal best. I think once again, he's a youngster. He's, I think, taking the opportunity for these big kind of races. At Porrick, he wins. Here, he's probably not going to win, but he's going to get dragged through for a good time. So we'll be keeping an eye on him as well. Sub 151, I think. Even getting close to 150, I think, will be the goal.
Yep. What we're not too sure of is whether there's anybody who's in the race to take the pace, because you really need a fast first lap, 53 seconds-ish.
So just talking to Steve Willis just an hour or so ago, he did say that they have a pacemaker. We're aiming for 52.5 through halfway. So that should get them on pace comfortably, kind of getting out there, put them in position to run a 1:48. We'll see how well they can hold on. I'm going to take a stab and say we might be the wind might be dropping down a little bit. Usually it drops here in Wellington at about 8 o'clock. We're just a touch earlier than that, but we might be looking at perfect conditions almost for this 800.
When I watch Nick, I always expect Nick to go to the back. I always expect Nick to be really cautious, to bide his time and to come through. It'll be interesting to see what the 2020 tactical version of Nick Willis is, because he's a wonderful reader of races, and you have to make decisions at speed at 800 and 1500 with a lot of athletes around you who want to be in the place that you want to be. But Nick is a real master at getting that right. He makes it look so easy, and it isn't, believe me.
And look, I think we've seen from Nick over the last couple of years as well, the work that he puts into helping bring those athletes up behind him. I think no matter what he comes out with tonight as far as his own performance, he knows that being on the track here with young guys like James Harden and Michael Starzinski, he knows that these guys are thriving off being able to be on the track and chasing him down that home straight.
He'll desperately want to beat them tonight, but also he'll be proud of the legacy that when he does retire, that he'll finally leave behind for New Zealand distance running, middle distance running. So Nick's at the back, probably where we expected him. It's a good fast pace. This is it's going to be at least 52 seconds the way it's going at the moment, which is great.
Yeah, so keep an eye out on the inside in the white shorts. Takuto Hanamura from Japan. He's got a personal best of 1:47. But it looks like Rowan Blakey there from Kiwi Athletic Club, the local club here at Newtown Park. He's been given the job of setting the pace tonight. 52.5 is what they asked for.
Josh Fletcher in the trail.
This is quick.
So there we go, 52.
That
maybe
was pretty much perfect, 52, 53 seconds. Good pacemaking.
And he's going to carry on a little bit longer. So I want to say that's Josh Ledger currently in second place. Takuto Hanamura from Japan in third. He's coming up on the outside now as things start to tie up down the back straight.
Nick's still relatively comfortable at the back, but giving them about 10 to 15 metres.
Robert Lister pushing.
So Robert Lister from Australia, we forgot to mention him before the start of the race, but it's Robert Lister as they come around with 100 remaining. The Japanese athlete just in behind him. The Auckland athlete on the outside.
Nick weaving his way through and hooking out to finish, but he's got a bit of distance to make up on Robert Lister. Nick Willis going to second.
And James Harding still there in third. So James Harding, the youngster, the 17-year-old from Auckland City, he's going to be very close to his personal best he set just a couple of weeks ago at the Pirate Classic. But the winner there going to Robert Lister from Australia, followed closely there by Nick Willis. We have entered here for the Lower Hutt Athletic Club, but certainly running there in his sponsored Adidas strip. And the youngster, James Harding, coming home strong there in third place.
Happy to claim him, though. I've got a young 8-year-old boy who was down at Lower Hutt Athletics the other day and who was there inspiring the athletes. Nick Willis taking time out of his day again. And that's just, as Dave, you mentioned earlier, the legacy that he's leaving.
And Lister ran a really great tactical race. He stole a march on Nick, really. I think Nick will be fine with that. He'll be happy. But Lister, at the point when Willis was beginning to weave his way through the field from the back, he pushed on hard. He made his move, and it was decisive. And it was brave because he ran into the wind but got away from them, and there's no way back for Nick. So although he was closing the gap towards the end, the Australian really had stole the march. And that decisive move he was able to maintain through to the finish. And it's a good victory for him and a good scalp to get Nick Willis, to beat Nick.
Yeah, and look, and just looking at kind of results this season from Robert Lister, he ran 1:49.5 in Brisbane just a couple of weeks ago. So he certainly, in 2019. So he certainly reproduced something similar to that tonight. But look, that's what happens. You get a field of 3 or 4 guys that can all run 1:47 or faster. I was hoping Nick was going to come out and blow away his PB, and I could talk about the time when I saw him run as 1:45, 16 years ago now in Houston. But certainly after years of concentrating on the longer stuff, the 1500, Just great to see Nick out here competing locally. We're not necessarily going to see New Zealand records and personal bests and stuff from him over an 800, but another good blowout for him before his next races.
And I think a lot of 1500 metre, remember John Walker, the year that he won the Olympic gold medal in 1976, he also ran the 800, didn't make the final. So you don't, 1500 metre runners use the 800 as a means of preparing for their main event, not necessarily an end in itself. And obviously Nick would have loved to have won today, but I think he'd be happy. It was a decent blowout, as you said, Reece. And, the important thing for him, I think, now is to have the kind of satisfaction of making yet another Olympic Games if he possibly can. And then he can reflect after 2020, after the Olympic Games, on what he wants to do, whether he wants to continue to compete. And here he is, one Olympic finalist, Tony Rogers, meeting a double Olympic medalist over 1500 metres, Nick Willis.
Unfortunately, obviously, we don't have a microphone through to the live stream down on the field for that interview with Nick, but certainly he's giving big thanks and praise to the crowd here, local crowd. He loves coming back and competing local. Look, we love to have him here. It's always good to have an Olympic medalist to claim as a home athlete, but he does a lot for the distance running community in New Zealand, and certainly to have him back in Wellington. There's a few kids here that would have loved to get a signature today, and look, it's beautiful just to see him run sometimes. He runs so smoothly, and like I said, giving thanks to the crowd, thanks to all the supporters coming out. Typical Nick.
Yeah, you should feel really proud of Nick Willis, and the Willis family. His dad as a coach, his brother Steve is a really good runner, and is that indicating that his rest of his career is going to be devoted to golf? But there is an element, I'm sure, with him of, let's just enjoy it, and so he should. Double Olympic medalist, as I said, a silver and a bronze, and a fabulous career, Commonwealth champion. Enjoy every minute of watching him, and he should enjoy every minute of the rest of his career, because he's been a real credit to New Zealand sport and to New Zealand athletics.
Well, maybe that golf swing was a little bit of a hint to a new career. He might move back into speed golf at some stage. But certainly, look, I think Nick might have the claim to fame for the best golfer in the family, but Steve might have some argument about that as well. But certainly, you're mentioning Nick's father, Richard. He's sitting up in the announcer's booth, not with us down here at the live stream booth. We're out in the cold. I say out in the cold because the sun's just finally disappeared behind the clouds, and it's been a beautiful evening here. But Richard's up in the announcer's booth with the stalwart of announcing in New Zealand, Roger Robinson. And actually, great thing for the sport as well, Sarah Biss. So those of you who obviously weren't at the secondary schools or weren't watching the live stream for the secondary schools, Sarah Biss had her first stint in the announcer's booth, former New Zealand Secondary Schools champion, New Zealand representative, and she's, like me, making her way into the announcer's booth and doing her little bit and adding her comments in.
Got our Javelin medal ceremony here, and Ashley Pryke, our dinner mate from last night, Reece, is victorious for what will be the second to last medal ceremony of the night. That's been us for the 16th version of the Team Ledger Harcourts Capital Classic. Dave Moorcroft, been fantastic to have your insight, particularly the middle distance, but across the board.
Loved it. Thanks very much indeed.
And Reece Buck for you as well, and thanks for getting us those final fields too, which were critical.
Yeah, look, it's been a great night here. I certainly can't complain getting to sit next to a legend in Dave Moorcroft, and certainly your work on the microphone, Mark, it certainly precedes you, and now had the experience of sitting next to you and doing it as well. But no, great experience here, great night. Just quickly looking through our records, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 championship records, 7 meet records. I think they're going to be dipping their hands in for that $4,000 record pool. Big thanks to the sponsors there, Team Ledger. Great night here in Newtown Park, and look, thanks to everyone at home that's been enjoying the coverage. And the Stream Shop crew that have been bringing us this coverage on Sky Sport Next. We bid you farewell, and of course the athletics community will move on next week, and you can watch it live too with the National Championships out of Christchurch. But from Newtown Park in Wellington, we bid you farewell.
At the end of 2019, Team Ledger had sold over 1,000 properties. So 2020's here, and we're going to ramp it up a gear and give away this.